Man can't live by bread alone. Yeah, this world got food in it. Stepping on the devil dome. You should see the bruise in it. Backing out the scripts. Told a demon to stand down. Go against the Most High. We gon' see how it pan out. The Father gave me hope. Fill me with the ghosts. Now they hate it when I glow. Joseph with the coat. Looking for their fruit, but they ain't got no cantaloupe. The Messiah over Lio, you can't be a fan of both. Can't serve two masters. Bread of heaven with the living water, yeah, serving up a truth platter. We ain't idolizing no folly, now we setting up a new standard. When Christ touched down, make the whole earth shake like Bruce Banner. Yeah, bringing them troops to ya. End times getting spookier. Warfare getting nuclear. Mankind getting goofier. They intoxicated with a wine, damn, she done roofie them. I'm checking every word. Spirit doctrine like a proofreader. I hate these Nicolatans. Hate these great Renatos, man, I hate these flipping pagans. Trying to play my father and I hate these imitations. Screaming out Hosanna, we escape that simulation. Better flee to me, vote these or else that lake is where you layin'. Great is he inside of me, casting out this net like I was by the Sea of Galilee. Harvest gon' be plenty, but the laborers are few. Matthew 17 and 20, there ain't nothing we can't do. I can't be no lukewarm, fringes with the blue on. Devil wanna deal, but I told him this ain't group on. Praise to the Almighty, you know we gon' sing a new song. Hail the King of King, the Ultra Low, no Jimmy Neutron. If you keep his laws and his commands, then we can fellowship. I don't get with Pharisees and I don't rock with Hellenists. I am praising man, cause only Father get my reverence. I'm swimming in the word, it got me feeling like a yellowfin. Yeah, big stepper, Mr. Demon Chin Checker, tryna hear that well done, cause I feel that displeasure. Father pouring out the wrath, and he got a big measure. If it ain't about the kingdom, then I don't give a six letter. You got faith in the Messiah, you got power. I was clean up in that blood just like a shower. Isaiah 5, you were the vine that came out sour. But now we stand and giving glory in this hour. Yeah, we breaking them curses, fleeing the ways of the serpent. Follow his word and pray for discernment, cause they want us laying in hearses. We gotta rise up, raise and resurface. Choose life and stay in your purpose. The price was paid like a merchant, through Christ who came as a servant. See, the kingdom is ready to bag, but yet somehow they chasing a Birkin. After this you ain't getting a chance. While you living you can't but search him. Gotta call on his name like his urchin. Never knowing that day is emerging, so repent at the weight of perversions. Judgment coming, that thing is for certain. Let's go.
Shalawam family, it's your brother Yasharahla from the House of Bread, and I have to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is YAHAWAH. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Make sure you make your way over to HIBofficialZion.com and get you a copy of the HIB, the Hebrew Israelite Bible. Shalawam, Kwam Yasharahla.
The Hebrew Israelite Bible is the first of its kind, restoring the names of persons, places, and things in the ancient Hebrew dialect, colloquially referred to amongst the Israelite community as the Lashawan Quadash. Most importantly, it preserves the Most High's name YAHAWAH in the Paleo-Hebrew script. The Hebrew Israelite Bible comes complete with all 80 books found in the 1611 King James Version Bible, including the Apocrypha.
All right, Shalawam family. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all glory, and all honor to the Most High God, whose name is YAHAWAH. Of course, I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. As your brother Yasharahla, joined by my good brother Yasharahla, and we are the House of Bread, where we teach that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. Right? We're going to jump in just a bit. Let me see what's going on with this joint. We want to jump into the topic in just a bit, man. But what is going on? They are tripping. Let's see what they got going on here, man. Damn, this is pissing me off. All praise to the Most High. But yeah, fam, we want to dive in just a bit. Make sure you guys like and share the video. Make sure you guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Right, make sure that you guys are tapped in with us on our various social media platforms. Okay, so make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, Yasharahla. Right, make sure you also subscribe to the House of Bread right here on YouTube. We aren't simulcasting today, but tapping with us, the brothers Shar, laYAHAWAH, and Shar Yahawah, they do lessons typically every Monday. So tapping with them live here on House of Bread. Right, link should be in the description. Right, again, make sure that you are subscribed here at Yahawah. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever we go live on either channel. All right. Make sure that you tapped in with us on Instagram. Right. So you can follow us on Instagram at House of Bread Camp, underscores in between each word. Right. Tapping with us. There's tons of course, sources here. You can go to the link in our bio, get a copy of our feast day calendar, tap in with our YouTube page. Every link that you could possibly need, you can find it right here on the channel, right? On the Instagram page. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, right? Especially as we got about to dive into the news and dive into biblical prophecy, right? I utilize my story heavily on Instagram. So I'm always posting the latest and newest information surrounding this war with Iran, America, as well as Israel. So make sure that you're tapped in with us here on my IG, right? My story, I'm always posting at least 10 to 15 stories a day, right? So just make sure that you keep abreast to what's going on. Additionally, make sure you tap in with the brother Yasharahla, right? He makes tassels, right, at prestige_way_designs here on Instagram. The link is in the description as well, right? You got all types of flavors, right? Get you right. Passover's right around the corner, right? You can tap in with myself, right, at Gedalia_Ariala, right? I do the Bust Down Tassels, right? So we got tons of different flavors. Passover's around the corner. I've been knocking the orders out. And if you ask anyone that's putting an order, I get orders out within like a couple of days. Oh, praise to the Most High. Shout out to this good brother right here, the brother Shamar from WFI. He rocking a pair right here. See how brothers is coming. So tap in with us. All right. But with that, right, also make sure you make your way with HIBofficialzion.com, right? Link in the description, get you a copy of the Hebrew Israelite Bible, right? Now, what I want to say and what I want to let brothers and sisters know, right? When you order your HIB, right? I just don't have these on deck in the crib, right? I just don't have these on hand, right? To even get these printed costs a lot of money, right? So these, when you order them, it's on a print on demand type of service, right? And since the economy has shifted, right? When I first actually introduced the HIB, which was back in like 2000 and was it 23, I think was the when we first launched the HIB. Let me take a look. First order was, we'll watch this. Yeah, first order was in November 2023. So it's been some time, right? A little over 2 years. All right, we're within our third year. And when I first introduced it, right, these things, they were able to print these out within typically 5 to 7 business days, right? Since the economy has gone to shit, right? The publisher is unable to get these printed out within that time frame. I used to be able to expedite the print speed as well, right? And pay a little extra to get you your book earlier. That's not even an option anymore, right? So these take about 13 to 15 business days for them to print it and then for them to ship it out. The shipping speeds will vary depending on where you are. So the last couple of people who put in orders, I just submitted your tracking information. So you should be getting your books very, very soon. All right. But just be patient with us, right? As soon as you put in the order, right? I put the order in with the publisher, right? I'm on top of it. Like, I'm a very organized individual. Got a spreadsheet and all that. I'm making sure that brothers and sisters get their stuff as soon as humanly possible. So I just got tracking numbers. Right, the last couple of people who put in orders, you should have your tracking in your email right now. Right. So I just wanted to make that disclaimer for the Hebrew Israelite Bible. All right. But with that said, with that out of the way, right? Let's dive into some current events, into as well as some biblical prophecy, right? Because of course we see what's going on with Iran, right? Israel and the United States of America, right? And actually, let me see if I can pull something up really quickly. I want to find a video, because what's going on right now is that the United States of America, right? The biggest influences in America, of course, is AIPAC, which is an Israeli backed and Israeli interest group of lobbyists that literally own our government.
Yep.
They have the largest pull in this community, in this country. And other than them, you have white evangelical Christians, right? Who are, it's funny, right? These people, they are so-called Christians, right? The state of Israel is a place where Christians get spat on by so-called Jews, right? You see videos of it all the time. And these white evangelical Christians here in America, they love the state of Israel. And they believe that these people are the children of Israel, right? And because of that, right, they are, of course, in lock and step with AIPAC and with anything that's Israeli, right? I'm not sure if any of you guys have seen, there's a guy who's going around on social media, right? Story, right? He's going around on social media, and he's going to staffers and senators and congressmen down in Congress in DC, right? And he's asking them, America first or Israel first? And these people are silent.
Oh, I seen those.
Right? These people are silent, right? When asked a very simple question, is it America first or Israel first? Because Donald Trump, right, in his campaign, he campaigned on what? No more foreign wars, right? No more new wars, right? We need to address America first, right? And it's funny, we were actually down at the Trump rally this past, well, shit, what, in 2024? So the year prior, right? We was down there as the election was going on, and you just had a bunch of folk, right? Of course, you got a bunch of white folk, right? And surprisingly, you had a bunch of blacks and Hispanics at the rallies, right? And Trump got the nomination because he campaigned on America first, no more new wars, right? Let's focus on America. And guess what? America's going to shit.
Yep.
We look at this war and what the economic ramifications, we see that the Strait of Hormuz got closed by Iran as they said that they would do, right? And as they rightfully should, as America and Israel, in the midst of talks, the negotiations, they just attacked them, killed their supreme leader, right? Killed, and mind you, Donald Trump during his first term killed the president of Iran, right? About a couple of months ago, they allegedly got rid of all of Iran's nuclear capabilities, right? They use a bunker busters, right? But somehow, some way, Iran, who's been at the cusp of having a nuclear weapon for the past 30 years, let Benjamin Netanyahu tell you, right? Somehow, after Trump dropped these bombs, and it was amazing, right? Big bombs, right? Iran, they don't have any nuclear capabilities anymore because we bombed the hell out of them, right? We didn't know how this guy is. Somehow, some way, a few months later, they miraculously revamped it, right? And now you're in talks about their nuclear program, and then you attack them, you kill their supreme leader in the midst of those talks. It's insane, right? But what we got, what I want to show, right, is how this war is being presented to the army, to the military, to the navy, to all of the forces of America, is being presented to them as a holy war, right? So let me pull up a video real quick. Now this is I'm not sure if you guys, I would highly suggest not watching like CNN, mainstream media, right?
CNN was just bought by Paramount Studios.
Yeah, and that's owned by what's that schmuck's name?
Yeah,
The nigga who owned Oracle.
right.
He's a small hat. He's a small hat, right? And these people, they don't know what they're doing, right? They have no clue what they're doing, right? And they believe, right? They believe in the scriptures to an extent, but they don't have the true understanding of the scriptures, right? And that's why we, the Hebrew Israelites, we're here, right? To bring the true understanding of the scriptures to our people, right? As we are here in these last days. The fact that these people think that the Zionist state of Israel, that 1948 was a fulfillment of prophecy concerning the Israelites' return to the land of Israel, demonstrates how Psalms 147, verses 19 through 20, is true and has always been true. That the Most High God, the God of the Bible, whose name is Yahawah, right? He showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any other nation. And as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord, right?
Lord.
So I want to pull up this video real quick, right? This is from the Young Turks, right? So the Young Turks, I've been actually, give me a second.
Here's what.
Skip.
Because you're in religion, no one's going to force you.
Did you know that sugar combined
Lord
with
in
minerals
Christ.
and apple cider?
I'm not even signed in. Hold on, give me a second, right? See, when I'm streaming, right, I use Chrome. Chrome is the browser that I use day to day. But when I'm streaming, I have to do it via Safari, so that you guys can actually hear what's going on, right? So I'm not always logged in, right? So anyway, let's get into this video real quick. This is from the Young Turks, right? Now, before I came into the truth, right, I was very much so not involved, but I was interested in politics, at the time. What led up to me coming into the truth was Trump got elected in 2016. I was shocked. I'm like, there's no way that this idiot got elected. I said, I need more Jesus in my life. I went back to church, and that's what got me on the path of studying the Bible every day, seeking for truth. I came to understand that we were the Israelites, still had Christian doctrine, and then over the next year or so, saw brothers of the One West ilk teaching the Bible on the street corners, and I realized that this is the right path. This is what I need to be doing, and the rest is history, right? So I was heavily watching the Young Turks especially during election time, right? Of course, I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. This is before I came into the knowledge of the truth. I wanted Bernie Sanders to win because Bernie Sanders was pushing universal health care, things that we as Americans, we need, right? We've been asking for, but Israel gets it, right? Off of our dime, but somehow we don't have the money to have these things, right? So our government over the first 7 days of this war spent over $11.3 billion, billion with a B, right? And what you got to understand is that the white evangelical Christian space, right? They're usually very racist, right? They're Christian nationalists, right? So they of course believe in everything white and everything is white is right. And they also believe that the people that live in the land of Israel today, the so-called Jews, that they are actually the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they believe in blessing them, right? That it's their duty to bless them. And this is why our government gives them billions of dollars, right? And this is what they're telling the troops concerning this war, that Netanyahu and Trump, and not even Trump. Trump is just he's the whore. Netanyahu's the pimp, right? America is the great whore Babylon that we read about in the book of Revelation. In Israel, right? Israel is the pimp. Okay, the beast in which the whore, which is America, is riding is the Western European power structure. We're going to dive into biblical prophecy concerning that. We're going to dive into biblical prophecy concerning, of course, China, right? Again, we're talking about Iran, Russia, right? The East versus the West, right? It's like the NBA All-Star game, right? Getting ready to happen on the global scale. Okay, so let's see what they're telling these people.
Journalist Jonathan Larson reports that U.S. troops were being told that the U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran was in preparation for Armageddon and also the return of Jesus. Jank, is this comforting information for you?
No. Just when you thought the Israeli Zionists were bad enough in starting wars for all the wrong reasons, here comes the Christian Zionists.
So, right, so Cenk Uygur, he is the founder of the Young Turks. He, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure where his family's from, right? But he's a Muslim, right? He's a Muslim. And the Young Turks, they're very left, right? So they're like Cenk's not a homosexual, right? He's not part of the LGBT community. But these people, they push, right, the respect and being allies to that community and whatnot, right? So when I came into the knowledge of the truth, I of course shied away from this this type of coverage, right? And I look at their coverage now, and I watch Redacted a lot. Redacted, they're more moderate / right wing. So at the end of the day, they're both two sides of the same coin, right? They're all full of it. But however, what I like about them is that they report on the news objectively, right? Like they're Democrat. Like he's a Democrat, right? He ran for office as a Democrat, right? But he understands that mainstream Democrats are bought and paid for by Israel, right? They understand that, of course, the same is true for the Republicans, right? And I like getting information from them as well as Redacted having both sides of the coin, right, to give you both perspectives, because you know that it's not coming from too much of a biased place. When you look at CNN, Fox, MSNBC, CBS, these are all owned by who? But the people that were taking the small hats. So everything that they push is in favor for who? The Zionist state of Israel, right? So again, we see that our government, they are pushing this war, right? And part of their morale is telling the troops that this is to bring upon Armageddon. And here's the thing. It's looking like it is. These are the first steps that's going to get us closer and closer and closer to Armageddon. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that got to happen between now and Armageddon, right? Between now and the return of Christ, right? We don't know the day or the hour that he will return, but we can see the signs, we can measure them diligently and see that we're within the time frame. Actually, let's get that real quick. Let's get to the book of Sirach, chapter 9, right? Not Sirach. Actually, let's get Sirach 39, and then we're going to go to 2nd Ezra, chapter 9.
Sirach 39.
From the top.
I'm gonna start from the top. This is Sirach 39 from the top. It says, "But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is in the meditation thereof,"
He's occupied.
Occupied in the meditation thereof,
Uh-huh.
will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient,
Come on.
and be occupied in prophecies.
Occupied in prophecies. And again, if you look at the thumbnail, right, we see prophecy alert, right? And I've been saying this, watch China, right? For a particular reason. Because myself, other brothers are here in House of Bread, right? Shout out to the good brother Yadi. I was on the phone with him early today, right? From the Masada. That's my brother. Of course, when we chopping it up, we talking straight prophecy. right? Because we're occupied in the meditation of God's laws, right?
Right.
When we look at the scripture tells us that those that keep God's commandments have a good understanding. So in order to actually understand prophecy, you have to keep the commandments to truly understand it. And if you keep the commandments and you meditate on the commandments in the operation and doing of the commandments, then you're going to be occupied in prophecies and be able to have a good understanding of prophecy, right? Read on.
Slaki.
Verse 2.
Yeah, verse 2. I was pulling up a preset, but verse 2. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also.
All right, so this is an individual who's just seeking knowledge, right? Who's hungry and thirsty for truth, right? And that's what we have to be, right? In this walk, we have to be walk in the truth, right? See, there's a difference between knowing the truth, knowing that you're an Israelite, and actually walking the walk, right? A Jew is not one inward, outwardly, but one that's inward, right? You have to be an inward Jew, right? You have to walk after the commandments, and then you doing that and being occupied in the meditation thereof, the Most High God will open your understanding, and then you'll be able to understand prophecy a lot better, especially if you're a brother, right? Sisters should be, of course, prophecy is important to understand, but what's more so important for our sisters is, of course, keeping the commandments, right? Being good wives, being good sisters, being good mothers, things of that nature, right? So now that we've established this, let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 9, right? So we understand that you have to be occupied in the meditation of the Torah, of the law, right? To have understanding of prophecies, and if you do so, you'll be occupied concerning prophecies, right? And while you're doing that, you have to do this, right? Bring it out
from the top.
Yep.
2nd Ezra chapter 9, verse from the top. Says, he answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself.
Measure the time diligently in itself, right? You have to look at the times, right? The signs of the times, right? Read on.
Okay. And when thou seest part of the signs pass, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So
we can look at the times, right? Look at how prophecy is lining up with current events, and how current events are either fulfilling prophecy or giving way and leading to the ultimate fulfillment of prophecy, right? We got to pay attention to that. That's how we have to measure the time diligently, right? Read on.
Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning.
So again, we're seeing these things, earthquakes in diverse places. Yahawashi, I talked about this in Luke 21, what's that, Mark 13, and Matthew 24, right? Yahawashi talked about this, right? We see the uproars of the people, right? We see here in America, right? We have this powder keg, right? Like, if you look on social media, you're going to see a bunch of people, right? Primarily Edomites, white people, who are upset with this war, and rightfully so. No, if I was not an Israelite, right, and if I was a white person, I would not want my child, my little brother, my little cousin, any of my loved ones to go over to fight a war for Israel, a people who have been committing genocide for the past couple of years. We've been watching this. I'm not gonna be down with that, right? So I don't blame any of these people for feeling the way that they feel, right? And all this stuff is happening because it's all in the Most High God's divine plan, right? So there's talks of them implementing a draft, right? They just said that they're about to send 5,000 troops, boots on the ground, in Iran. These brothers, because again, some of our people are in this in the military, right? Our brothers and sisters who were silly enough to sign up for the goddamn military, right? In these times, these niggas about to get shipped off over to Iran to lose their lives, not in defense of America, not in defense of the place that they call home, all for Israel to expand its borders so that they can actualize and see so-called greater Israel. The problem with that is these people are not the children of Israel.
Right.
So you got black folk who are the children of Israel fighting for the Edomites.
Hispanic folk.
Right? You got Hispanics, right, in the military who are about to lose their lives so that the Edomites, the border of wickedness, the epitome of evil in every sense of the word, for these people to further take the land that God gave us. That's what's happening. If you are a so-called black, Hispanic, or Native American, and you are in the military, you are about to fight and die for your enemies to continue to take your land, right, that you were exiled from, for them to continue to commit genocide against other people in those lands. And you're about to risk your life for that. It's silly, right? And if you actually gave your mind to the law of God, if you actually came back to your rightful sense, right, and took hold of your wisdom, which is the Torah, the book that these people take and loosely apply to themselves, right, they've been able to exalt themselves as being the top of the top, at the top of the social, economic, proverbial totem pole. These people have been able to elevate by keeping some of the basic principles and tenets that are found in the Torah. But you and your people, we have been, right, duped by the Christian church and told that, oh, Jesus Christ nailed the law to the cross and that you don't got to keep it. You can eat whatever the hell you want to eat. You can do whatever you want to do, right? All you got to do is believe and receive. We've been lied to, and this is why we've been kept at the bottom, right? So if you actually kept the laws of God, you will be able to measure the time diligently and see that, it's not a good idea to join Babylon's military when the Bible prophesies the destruction of Babylon. It just doesn't make sense, right? So now with that said, right, we can measure the time and see what's going on, right? And again, these people are telling the troops that this war is to bring upon Armageddon. Let's continue some more.
Joy. Wait till you hear what the commander said about why we're in this war and what to do. Tell us about it, yes.
All right, so let's give you the high points. This is from Jonathan Larson's report. He says, a combat unit commander told non-commissioned officers at a briefing Monday that the Iran war is part of God's plan and that President Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth. And that is according to a non-commissioned officer. So we'll talk more about whatever that even means later. But between Saturday and Monday, more.
Let some random guy, right, be out on the streets, proclaiming this. Somebody try to lock him up for calling him schizophrenic or mentally ill.
Listen, we've been on the street corners, like me personally. I've been doing this for now 7 years. I'm entering into my 8th year here in the truth, right? Brother Mayash probably about 6 years, right?
6 years. Yep.
And then you got other brothers, right, who've been in this thing way longer than myself and the brother Mayash, right? Who've been saying the same things, right, for decades now. And niggas walk by and look at us like we're freaking idiots because we believe in the Bible, we believe in biblical prophecy, we believe what God, the word that proceeded out of God's mouth will not return unto him void, right? We've been looked at as a bunch of buffoons, right? Scripture about how we're a spectacle, right? Right? That God is pleased with the foolishness of preaching, right? We go on the street corners and we preach repentance to our people and letting them know that, hey, you don't have a lot of time, right? You better get your ish together and pay God what you owe him so that you can be protected, right? I come from a real estate background, right? I've been in various aspects of real estate. So I use a lot of real estate analogies. When it comes to renting an apartment, right, you have a lease agreement. right? The children of Israel entered into a covenant or a lease agreement with God, and the land that was being leased was the promised land. Now, the children of Israel got evicted because the children of Israel did not pay their rent. They did not pay God what they owed him. And what we owe God is our obedience and us actually doing the things that we agreed to in the contract. Like, as a property manager, right, there's, again, I've signed tons of leases. I've either for apartments that I've lived in or, again, apartments that I was renting to people. Again, if you breach the contract, if you breach the terms of the agreement, right, now we have something called recourse. And the Most High God's recourse is called the curses, right? So we've been experiencing the curses, and because of, again, our disobedience and us not following the rules of the lease agreement, we got evicted out of our land, right? And we've gone all over the place, right? Living on the streets, getting just utterly oppressed because we just could not follow the rules, right? So it's high time, if you niggas want to get out of the streets, right, stop being homeless, right, you need to come back to your landlord, the Lord God, the Most High God, Yahawah, all right? Listen, say, all right, I'm sorry, like, give me another chance, and let's sign a new lease agreement, right? And follow those instructions so that you can get back to your land, right? So you can get back to your rightful place as God's chosen people. But we're at the bottom and scattered to the four corners of the earth because we did not listen to the Most High God. Now, when we take that same principle and we look at the people who are occupying the land of Israel, they are a bunch of squatters. And not just them, the Palestinian people. They're squatters in God's chosen land.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus Christ, who the world calls Jesus Christ, Yahawashi, said that Jerusalem will be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So since the children of Israel, the Jews got kicked out of Jerusalem and out of the land in 70 AD, right, with their first Roman-Jewish war, the vast majority of them, Jerusalem has been in the control and in the hand of the Gentiles. The Romans came in, they built a temple to, I forget which Roman goddess, which sparked the Bar Kokhba revolts, right? So, and then you got the Ottomans, you got, before the Ottomans, you got the different caliphates, you got the Crusades, you got Jerusalem being trodden down and trampled by Gentiles for the last 2,000 plus years. And right now, presently, you have a bunch of Gentiles trodden down Jerusalem, right? Taking the land of Israel within their possession, right? So again, coming back to this whole topic about this war with Iran, right? And we're asking the question, well, will China get involved in this war? Or will they invade Taiwan, right? And I've been saying for quite some time, watch China, right? For a particular reason, because China is part of biblical prophecy. And we're about to get ready to dive into that, right? So let's take a look real quick. Let's go to the book of Zechariah chapter 1, right? Zechariah 1, and we're going to start from the top.
Okay. Zechariah 1 from the top. In the 8th month, in the year of Darius, came the word of the Lord unto Zechariah, the son of Barakath, the son of Iddo,
Iddo.
What is it?
Iddo
the prophet, saying, the Lord have been sore displeased with your fathers. Therefore say thou unto them, thus saith the Lord of hosts, turn ye unto me, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will turn unto you.
Exactly what we just been saying, right? Turn back unto the Lord, and he will turn back unto us, right? See, Hebrew Israelites of the One West ilk, a lot of times when we go into, when we on the street corners preaching to our people, we typically go to Deuteronomy 28, and we go into those curses, right? But there's curses listed in Leviticus 26, right? And one of those curses, it says, if you will walk contrary to me, I will walk contrary to you. Right? Look at Amos 3. It says, can two walk together lest they be agreed? We were supposed to walk with the Most High God, right? By keeping his commandments hand in hand. But The Most High God is going this way. We want to go backwards by not keeping the commandments. If I'm holding my wife's hand, right, and I'm walking forward, and then she just decides to walk backwards, our hands are going to separate. And us turning our back on God, us not keeping the commandments, us not listening to our husband, as the scriptures call God the husband of Israel, right? Calls him the father of Israel, right? The prophets use these analogies for the relationship between Israel and God so that we as human beings can understand these relationships, right? If you understand what it is to be a father, right, and to raise children, you can understand how the Most High God feels when your children disobey you, right? If you are a husband, right, you know what it is to have a wife, to lead a wife righteously. If your wife turns her back on you, right, and goes and steps out on you, commits adultery, right, by sleeping with another man, then you understand how God feels when we turn our back on God and we step out on him and we go and worship other gods that are not real gods, right? You left me a real nigga for this schmuck, right? That's how God feels about us worshiping other gods, right? So these analogies of these different relationships are used all throughout the scriptures so that we can understand with our human minds how the Most High God feels when we go off, right? So God is displeased with us as he's been displeased with our fathers. Now, mind you, this is during the time of the repatriation back from Babylon into where? Back to the land of Israel. Here we are in spiritual Babylon looking to get back to Israel, right? That's why all this is happening. All of this is happening because the Most High God is laying the stage for the children of Israel to return back to the land of Israel, right? All this that's happening right now is for the liberation of you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. It's up to you to keep God's commandments, right? So that you can get delivered, so that you can be in his good graces, so that you can be exalted back to your proper place as being above all nations. But we're at the bottom because of what? We disobey God, right? Continue.
Come on again at verse 3. Turn ye unto me, saith Yahweh of hosts, and I will turn unto you, saith Yahweh of hosts. Be
Now, of
ye
hosts, right? We keep seeing this phrase of hosts, right? YAHAWAH, right? It's talking about armies, right? The Bible says in Exodus 15:3 that Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. He's the creator of all things. He literally created the concept of war, right? He creates life and death, right? And war is how you bring a lot of death, right?
Right.
So the scriptures talk about how the Most High mustered the host of the battle. God, the Most High God's in control of all of this, right? So again, we're talking about hosts. We're talking about military. We're talking about army. We're talking about war, right? Read on.
Done. Verse 4. Be ye not as your fathers, unto whom the former prophets have cried, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, turn ye now from your evil ways and from your evil doings. But they did not hear, nor hearken unto me, saith Yahweh. Your fathers, where are they? Where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? But my words and my statutes, which I commanded my servants, the prophets, did they not take hold of your fathers?
Right, meaning, these words that my prophets have been speaking unto you, have your fathers not laid them in the heart? Did they not take hold? Right? Did these words not pierce your hearts and for them to understand? Right? Read on.
And they returned and said, like as Yahweh of hosts thought to do unto us according to our ways and according to our doings, so have he dealt with us. Upon the 24th day of the 11th month, which is the month of Sabbath, in the second year of Darius, came the word of Yahweh unto Zechariah, the son of Barakath, the son of Iddo, the prophet, saying, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse.
Upon a what?
A red horse.
A red horse, right? So we're going to dive into the rest of this chapter, right? We're also going to take a look at Zechariah 6 in just a second, right? But I want to bring something to y'all attention, right? Let's take a look at
Revelation 6 and not yet.
Not yet, right? But if you take a look here at the thumbnail, right? I got Xi Jinping, the president of China, right? On the left side, we got imagery of Chinese warships and aircraft, right? Getting involved with the war in Iran, right? And then we have on the right-hand side, China invading Taiwan, right? This China has had this one China policy for a very, very long time. Okay. And of course, America has gone back and forth and been playing hokey pokey and the cha-cha slide around it. But now we see what's going on with America and Taiwan. And we're going to go into an article in just a bit, right? In the middle above Xi Jinping, we see a fiery horse, right? And this is for a particular reason, right? Now, when we take a look at prophecy, at the scriptures, right, real quick, let me just get this real quick, and we're going to come back to Zechariah 1, and I'm going to show you guys something, right? So when we look at Deuteronomy chapter 32, right, and just know that your KJV is translated from what's called the Masoretic text, right? The Masoretic text renders Deuteronomy 32 and 8 incorrectly. When we look at the Septuagint, we also look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, they agree, right? When we look at verse 8, it says that God separated the sons of Adam by the bounds of his people, right? It should be the sons of God, right? Beni Elohim or Banya Alahayim, right? So Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7 says, remember the days of old and consider the years of many generations. Ask thy fathers, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, he separated the sons of Adam, right? This should be read as the sons of God, right? Not the sons of Adam, the sons of God. He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For Yahawah's portion is his people. Jacob is alive, his inheritance, right? Now, when we couple this, right, when we really understand this, when we, again, replace Adam with God as it should be, right? You have the hosts of heaven, the angels. They're known as the sons of God, right? We look at, for instance, the book of Job, right? I'll show you real quick. Job chapter 38 and verse 7. It says, when the morning star, actually, let me just get the full context real quick. Watch this, right? So Job chapter 38, I'll start verse 5. It says, verse 4, it says, where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. So Most High is flexing, talking to Job, like, nigga, where were you when I was doing all of this? Right?
Shooting in the gym.
Yeah, he wasn't with me shooting in the gym, right? Verse 5, who have laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy, or shut up the sea of with doors when it break forth as if it had issued out of the womb, right? So he said, where were you during creation? And it says that during creation, the sons of God were there, and they shouted for joy. Because, and when we look at even how it's talking, it says, who laid the foundation thereof? The Most High God, like he got up off his throne of eternity and physically did. No, he has the sons of God, right? Beni Elohim, right? Banya Alahayim, right? To do the physical labor, right? Listen, King Solomon gets credit for building the temple, but King Solomon ain't hew a single fucking stone and chop a single goddamn log from the cedars of Lebanon. He didn't pick up an axe not once, right? But he orchestrated it. He's the architect. He's the grand. He's the guy who gets the credit. Same way the Most High God gets the credit for creating all things, because he created Christ, right, and used Christ to create the angels, right, the sons of, which collectively are the sons of God, and they did the physical labor. The Most High God's the architect. Yahawashi, he would be the foreman, and they are the rest of the regular construction workers, right? So the phrase
That's
sons
not,
of God, right?
I was,
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say that's not so foreign, right? Think of the RICO, right? A man goes down for the RICO. All the people that was under him doing all the hits, doing everything, that's accredited to him.
Yeah, they gonna get in trouble too, right? But he gonna get the most trouble. He gonna get most of the credit because he orchestrated everything. The Most High God is the orchestrator of all things, right? So, looking at Deuteronomy 32, it says that God separated the sons of God. The Most High God Yahawah separated the sons of God, right, by the bounds of the people, and He took Jacob, Israel, as His portion, right? God, the Most High God, always had a chosen lineage of people, right, of all the humankind, right? Now, when we look at Deuteronomy chapter 4, right, God tells us not to worship Him by making idols, right? When we look at verse, it's really from like verse 11, actually verse 10 on to down to 20, right? So I'm just get down to the point, right? Verse 19, unless thou lift up thy eyes unto heaven, the sky, and when thou seest the sun, the moon, and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven. What are the hosts of heaven, right? Sun, the moon, and stars physically, right? But behind these hosts, there are actual hosts known as the sons of God, right? It says, and thou shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which Yahawah, your God, thy God, have divided unto all nations under the earth, under the whole heaven, right? But Yahawah hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance as ye are this day, right? We are Yahawah's inheritance, right? He's our inheritance. He's our God. The other gods, known as the sons of God, the angels, God created them for the heathen to worship, right? So I made a post on Facebook the other day, right? Made a post on Facebook the other day talking about, hey, watch China, right? And I had a silly ass nigga from just take a wild guess of where this dickhead's from. Take a wild guess of what chicken shit organization he's from. Take a wild guess. Anyone want to take a wild guess of which chicken shit organization this schmuck is from? Was from? You got an idea, Mayash?
Non-universal, unpractical.
The ISUPK. Of course he was. Of course this schmuck is from the ISUPK, right? So I'm gonna pull up the post that I made, right? Watch this. Right. My good brother my brother Quadazab, he got it, right? The so-called home of the truth, right? So I said China is going to do something major this year. They have just entered the year of the fire horse, which is the seventh animal in their 12-year zodiac cycle. The horse represents intense energy, passion, and dynamism for bold endeavors and adventure, right? So because I understand the Torah, right? Because I understand the Most High God is our God, and that He created the sun, the moon, and stars, the zodiac, for the heathen to be dismayed at, right? I understand that this is what they use as their ideology. I understand this, right? And am I saying, oh, I'm dismayed at the signs of heaven? No, I know that the Most High God created the sun, the moon, and stars, the host of heaven, for the heathen to worship and to be dismayed at. They're actually worshiping spirits, right? So let's dive into something, right? So again, it's the year of the fire horse, Chinese zodiac 2026, right? So the 2026 Chinese zodiac is the year of the fire horse, running from February 17, 2026 to February 5th, 2027, symbolizing energy, ambition, and independence. This year is expected to be fast-paced and action-oriented, bringing significant changes in career and personal life. The fire element brings intensity and passion to the horse's natural, confident, and at times impulsive nature, right? So I took a screenshot. I had looked this up weeks ago, right? I was actually just looking in our HOB chat, and I was telling the Aki, I said, "Yo, bro, I think China might invade Taiwan." I said it would be dope if they do it on Chinese New Year, right? Because right leading up to everything happening with Iran and whatnot, there was a lot of signs in heaven, right? You had a planetary parade, right? You had like 6 planets aligned, all aligned, right? Planets are simply wandering stars. The sun, the moon, and the stars are signs. They were created for signs, for seasons, right? So me understanding that, right, and seeing all these signs, we have all these blood moons and whatnot. This will be a pink moon coming up, all types of stuff, right? And I know the heathen are dismayed at them, right? And they worship them. We're supposed to look at them for what they are, signs, right? So I'm like, damn, like China, you got all this tension going on with all these talks with Iran and Israel and America. America just bombed Iran not too long ago. I'm like, things are heating up, right? I'm like, China, you gotta watch China, right? And I've been saying this for the past couple of years. I think last year was the year of the dragon. I'm like, nigga, the dragon and Chinese people. Oh, that's like a major symbol for Chinese folk. I'm like, they gotta do it now, right? And the year probably was the year of the snake. I was like, oh, right, so the year of the snake, year of the dragon, and now it's the year of the fire horse, right? And as I was, it was funny, right? I was up in the morning and I was meditating on the scriptures, and something led me to Zechariah 6, and we're going to get into Zechariah 6 in a second. It talks about horses, right? We see the symbolism of horses all throughout the scriptures, horses, chariots, things of that nature. And we got to understand that the prophets of old, right, and the kingdoms of old, horses and chariots were like B-52 bombers, right? They were like the modern day equivalent of goddamn F-15 Raptors and stuff like that, right? Imagine you got an army on foot versus an army that has horses and chariots. Can you outrun a horse? No, right? In a chariot, you could have a couple of niggas shooting arrows, bink, 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 just mowing through armies, right? So this is the symbolism that we see throughout the scriptures for a reason, right? Again, we're talking about YAHAWAH, the Most High God, who's known as a man of war, right? So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, damn, like these niggas, especially now after the war in Iran started, right? China's pissed off, right? And quiet is kept for I just saw a report how China, they knew about that this was going to happen 2 months ago, that this war was on the brink, right? Because all of these major powers have intelligence, right? America got the CIA, and the UK got M16 or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
MI6.
Of course,
yeah.
Israel got the Mossad and whatnot, right? Russia got the KGB. China got their equivalent, right? So they knew what was going on. They knew that this was getting ready to happen. And what they were doing, I think they were importing like something like 60% more oil from Iran before the war started, because they always knew that if America and Israel attack Iran, that Iran has to close the Strait of Hormuz, right? And we're getting ready to shout out to the good brother Khalad, right? Right. We were getting ready to go into the 4 carpenters that we see in Zechariah, and China's one of those 4 carpenters, right? And these carpenters have a very important task, right? So I'm reading Zechariah 6. I'm like, oh snap, I'm like, there's something here, right? So now let's get back into Zechariah chapter 1, right? So Zechariah 1, and let's pick up at verse 8.
John, Zechariah 1 verse 8 says, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse.
Oh, upon a what?
A red horse.
A red horse. What color is fire? red, orange, yellow, right? Read on.
And he stood up, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom. And behind him were their red horses, speckled and white. Then said I, O my Lord, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show thee what these be. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, these are they whom Yahawah has sent to walk to and fro through the earth.
To and fro in the earth, right? We're going to come back to Zechariah 6, right? Let's go to Zechariah 1, Slakia. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 6 really quick. And then we're gonna get a couple. Actually, before we get to Zechariah chapter 6, right? Let's go to Sirach 39 and 28. Watch this, right? Sirach chapter 39. Watch this, family. Trek with me.
28.
Yep, 28.
On this Sirach 39 and 28, it says, there be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction, they pour out their force and appease the wrath of him that made them.
Who is he that made them? The Most High God, right? He's the creator, right? Read on.
Many shall commend his understanding.
Where you at?
Verse 29. Fire and hail and famine and death.
Fire and hail and famine and death. Fire, right? Read on.
All these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. They shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is. And when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word.
So these spirits, right? There are spirits that God created for all these things: death, destruction, famine, right? And these spirits have power to walk to and fro in the earth, right? When we look at Job chapter 1, right? We talk about Job 38 with the sons of God, right? This phrase "sons of God" is used a couple times in the book of Job, right? So when we look at Job chapter 1, I'm gonna jump down to verse 6. It says, now there was a day when the sons of God, Beni Elohim, right, Bani Elohim, right, came to present themselves before Yahawah, and Satan came also among them. So Satan is one of the sons of God, right? Satan is one of the sons of God. It says, and the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Where are you coming from, Satan? Then Satan answered Yahawah and said, from going to and fro in the earth and walking up and down in it. So Satan, right, a spirit, walks to and fro in the earth, doing what? Seeking whomever he may devour. And God says, have you considered my servant Job, a perfect and upright man, one who escheweth evil? Right, and the Most High God allowed Satan to touch the things in Job's life, but he could not take Job's life, right? So the Most High God's in control of all these things, right? Satan's one of these spirits. There's good spirits, there are bad spirits, right? As above, so below. When we look at the temple was fashioned and patterned after the temple that's in the heavens. And again, you have the sons of God, the hosts of heaven, who are called Beni Elohim, Bani Elohim, right? Satan being one of them. They're spirits. God is a spirit. The angels are spirits, right? The thing is, us, the Israelites, we're supposed to worship Yahawah in spirit and in truth. Yahawah is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth, right? So I had a silly ass nigga talking about, these are the guys that you follow, right? What kind of prophet of God? What this silly nigga said? Silly nigga said, what prophet of God concerns himself with Chinese astrology? These is the niggas you listen to. So, statement full of just grammatical errors. Just sounding like a goddamn high school dropout, which is pretty common over there, right? The nigga missed the whole fucking point, right? The point is, I don't give a damn about their goddamn zodiac signs, right? I understand that all of the hosts of heaven were created for them to worship. So that's what they worship. Now, we're going to go, talking about Moab, right? We're talking about so-called Chinese people, right, who are Moabites, right? They're heathen that were given the hosts of heaven for them to worship. Now, within their 12-year zodiac system cycle, the horse is the seventh. 7 is a number of what? Completion, right? And what the horse symbolizes for them is very telling. That's the attitude that they have, because that's what they believe. That's what they worship. And God created these things for them to worship, right? And God created these spirits. Now, when we worship these spirits, right, these entities, the scriptures talk about how when we do so, we're sacrificing unto devils because they deceive us from who our true God is, the Most High God, right? There may be gods many and lords many, but to us there is but one God, that's the Father, and one Lord, the man Christ Jesus, right? Yahawashi. So I need y'all to trek with me and to pay attention and understand that I'm coming from this perspective, not because, I believe in the Chinese zodiac cycle. That's what they believe in, and that's what God created it for, right? For them to believe in it, right? So let's get Zechariah chapter 6 and verse 1.
Zechariah 6 and 1. Just had it. I'll read it off here. Zechariah 6 and 1. And I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came forth chariots out from between two mountains.
Chariots, right? Now, again, thinking about someone like Zechariah, during that time, chariots were drawn by what? By horses. Horses and chariots go hand in hand. They go together, right? Read on.
And the mountains were mountains of brass. And the first chariot were red horses.
So these mountains of brass, right? These are the UFOs, right? Which the Bible also calls chariots, right? The chariots of the Lord, right? These are the vehicles in which the hosts of heaven, the armies of heaven, which are angels, this is the vehicles and by which they maneuver, right? When we look at, while we were in the wilderness, we had a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, following us around in the wilderness, showing us where we need to go. And in that chariot that was in the sky, right? It was a so-called UFO. And who was in it? It was Yahawashi, right? Most High says, provoke him not, right? The angel will provoke him not, for my name is in him. What's the Most High God's name? Yahawah. What's his son's name? Yahawashi, right? So, again, this mountain of brass, these are so-called chariots, so-called UFOs, right? And what comes out of them are spirits. These spirits are for a reason. They're come to bring upon sore strokes, right? To bring calamity, to bring destruction on the wicked, right? Read on.
In the first chariot were red horses.
Were what?
Red horses.
Red horses, right? Read on.
And in the second chariot, black horses.
Uh-huh.
And in the third chariot, white horses. And in the fourth chariot, grizzled and bay horses.
Come on. So what we see here is the red horse, the black horse, white horse, and the pale horse, right? Revelation talks about these horses, which are certain spirits that went forth and brought certain judgment, right? That correspond to different events in history. We're not going to go off into that and dive into that, right? But again, just showing the concept that these chariots that the prophets are seeing, these visions, these horses and these chariots, they represent spirits. And these spirits, we saw what the job of these spirits are, to bring upon the judgment and the wrath of the Lord of hosts, Yahawah Tazayazath, right? Read on.
Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, what are these, my Lord? Mm-hmm. And the angel answered and said unto me, these are the four spirits of the heavens which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth.
Those what?
That which goes forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth.
So they go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth, right? Which is, of course, the Most High, right? And their spirits to walk, to go what? Go forth. Where? To and fro in the earth, right? Read on.
Con, the black horses which are therein go forth into the north country,
Mm-hmm.
and the white go forth after them, and the grizzled go forth toward the south country.
So now, right? We got the black and the white horse goes towards the north country. The grizzle and bay go south, and then they'll tell us where the red horse goes. Interesting, right? Interesting. Read on. There's only two other options: the west or east, right? Read on.
And the bay went forth and sought to go, that they might walk to and fro through the earth.
To and fro through the earth, right? Read on.
And he said, get ye hence, walk to and fro through the earth. So they walked to and fro through the earth. Then cried he upon me, and spake unto me, saying, behold, these that go toward the north country have quieted my spirit in the north.
So these spirits go to quiet the angel spirit, right? Because again, these spirits have jobs to have control and dominion over men, right? The Most High God created the sun, the moon, and stars, all the hosts of heaven, right? Which should be the sons of God for the heathen to worship, right? When we look at even, for instance, Daniel the 10th chapter, right? And I've been meaning to do a full breakdown of Daniel the 10th chapter, right? Daniel the 10th chapter talks about how there's a prince over the kingdom of Persia. There's a prince over the kingdom of Greece. And that Michael, right, this angel that came to answer Daniel's prayer, he was withstood by what? By the prince of the kingdom of Persia, and he needed Michael, one of the chief princes, to come and help him, right? Anyone ever watched the movie Doctor Strange? In the movie Doctor Strange, in the first one, right? Doctor Strange is a wizard, a witch, right? Of course, obviously, the scripture tells us that thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, right? Witchcraft goes hand in hand with idolatry, okay? And then he's fighting the sorceress supreme, right? And they're like bending space-time, right, in this three-dimensional world because they're operating on a higher plane, right? Because they're tapped into witchcraft, right? And it's all these things going on, and it's affecting what's happening where? In the earth, in this three-dimensional realm. As above, so below. So when these angels are fighting, right? The angels on the left, the angels on the right, they're fighting against each other. It has effects on us here in the world because they have dominion over us. Obviously, the Most High God has dominion over Israel. It's supposed to have dominion over Israel, right? We're supposed to worship him and submit to his dominion, right? And then he sends his angels to have charge over us, to protect us, things of that nature, right? So you got to understand these things. You got to have a spiritual mind, right, to understand what's going on right now, right? When you're a carnal nigga, like the aforementioned schmucks that we've been talking about, you're not going to understand shit like this, right? So again, these are spirits, right? Let's pick back up.
And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, take of them of the captivity, even of Heldai, of Tobiah, and of Jedaiah, which are come from Babylon, and come thou the same day, and go into the house of Josiah, the son of Zephaniah.
Right. So it was funny. I was looking at these names, right? And these names are very interesting. They have very interesting meanings. We're going to get into them in a second, right? Again, mind you, Zechariah is prophesying after we just repatriated from Persia under the Persians back to the land to rebuild the city and the temple. And Zechariah, as well as I believe it's Haggai, have to get on us for neglecting the building of God's temple, right? And when you study the temple, right, Solomon's temple was magnificent, right? It got destroyed because our people were doing all types of wickedness, setting up idols in the Holy of Holies, right? The Most High God's presence left the temple, right? The Ark of the Covenant disappeared, which was known as the mercy seat, where God's presence dwells with us. It's never been found, and it will never ever come back on the earth when you look at biblical prophecy, right? God removed his spirit, right, his presence from the temple and allowed it to be destroyed. It got rebuilt under Ezra and Nehemiah and they built a half-ass, small-ass temple. And we fast forward to the time right before Christ comes on the scene. Herod, right, had the temple rebuilt. They had it expanded. So they expanded the patio, right? They built the Fort Antonio fortress, right near the temple complex. They expanded the walkway, right? There was even an expansion during the Hasmonean age, right? So the temple got expanded, the second temple, right? And mind you, this is why they just came out of Babylon. They're trying to build a house, right? Zechariah 6 goes into, right, how the branch, right, which we know is Yahawashi, he's going to come, he's going to build up the temple, right? Looking at verse 12, it says, speak unto him, and thus saying, thus speak of the Lord of hosts, saying, behold, the man whose name is the branch. Who's the branch? Yahawashi is a branch, right, of David, right? That we read about in Jeremiah 23:5. It says, and he shall grow up out of this place, right, out of his place in the land, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. Even he shall build the temple of the Lord, and he shall bear the glory, and shall sit and rule upon his throne, and he shall be a priest upon his throne, and counsel of peace shall be between them both. Right. So again, this is a foreshadowing of Yahawashi, right? Yahawashi came to the temple, right? Said, "Don't make my father's house a den of merchants," right? The temple was ultimately destroyed, but when that third temple gets rebuilt, when his kingdom is established, right? He's going to sit on the throne as a king and as a priest, right? So this is what this is going into, right? But these names are very interesting, right? So we take a look at these names, right? We have, Heldai, right? Which is Chaladia, right? Chaladia means worldly, right? So these people came from Babylon, right? The mother captivity. Are we not in captivity? Right? Are we not told to come out of the world? Right? Look at this word, chalad. The root. Let's go back to this. I'm saying this chalad. Right? Age, world. Right? This is what the word is translated as. Right? Right? It means my world, my age. Right? My world. Chaladia. The yah makes it possessive. Right? Oh, let's see. You see right here it says worldly. Right? So we got this name, Chaladia. It says, go to them up from what? From the captivity. Where am I? I'm back in Job.
Yeah. No.
Boom, right? Then it says Tobijah, right? Let's look at Tobijah. Tobijah is Tawabia. Yahweh is good, right? God bringing us back from lands of our captivity back into our land is what? Good. It shows the goodness of Yahweh, right? Then it goes on to say of Jedediah, which means known of Yahweh, right? Yadiah, right? It means what Yahweh has known, right? Because Yahweh knows us, right? And we're supposed to know him by keeping his commandments, right? Then it goes on to say, which came from Babylon, right? And come down the same day and go into the house of Josiah, the son of Zephaniah. All right, so let's look at Josiah and Zephaniah, right? Josiah means whom Yahweh heals, right? God delivering us from the land of our captivity and bringing us back into our land it coincides with him healing us, right? And it says that he's the son of Zephaniah or Tazapania, which means Yahweh has treasured, because the Most High God has treasured us, right? So as I'm looking at this, I'm like, dang, this is kind of deep if you dive into what these names are, right? So go to them of the captivity, go to my world. Isn't Israel called a world without end?
Yeah.
Because Yahweh is good, right? Because we're known of Yahweh, right? He's going to take us, because he knows us, he's going to take us out of Babylon, bring us back to our land, right? Return our captivity, right? He's going to heal us, and he's going to treasure us. Think about the new covenant, right? God's going to deliver us out of Babylon. He's going to establish us a world without end. And through us, he's going to glorify himself, and he's going to be seen as good, right? He's always been good, right? And he knows us. And he's going to heal us, and he's going to treasure us. Once we get healed, we get that new covenant in us, right? We will no longer break his commandments. We will only do his commandments. That way we're exalted above all nations. We'll be that world without end, and the Most High God will treasure us. It's deep, right? But again, the point of going here was because of these horses. These horses are spirits, right? So now, China, they're influenced by these spirits the same way these other nations are influenced by these spirits, right? The heathen, when they worship these guys, they're worshiping these spirits. These spirits have dominion over them. These spirits are known as the sons of God, right? We're not to worship them. We're supposed to worship the Most High God, right? We're not even supposed to worship the Son of God, Yahawashi. We're supposed to worship the Father, right? So now let's go back to Zechariah chapter 1, and let's pick up back at verse 8.
Zechariah 1, verse 8.
Just real quick, right? We're getting into China involvement with this, right?
All right.
In this prophecy.
Zechariah 1, verse 8. I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees.
Among the myrtle trees, right? Now, what do the myrtle trees represent, right? When we look in the scriptures, right, the Feast of Tabernacles, which is known as Sukkot or Sakawath, right? It's called the Feast of Booths, right? Because we would dwell in booths, or they were made out of wood, right? While we were wandering in the wilderness, that's why we were given the Feast of Tabernacles, or again, Sakawath / Sukkot, right? And myrtle trees were some of the trees that we use to build said booths, build said houses, right? We are the house of God, right? We're supposed to keep God's commandments, keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. This is all symbolic of the building of what? Of the house of God, the children of Israel, the tabernacles of David, right? Same concept, right? So this is why this is being used. This red horse, or a man on a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees, right? Read on.
And behind him were their red horses, speckled and white.
So again, these horses represent spirits, right? Read on.
Then said I, O my Lord, what are these? And the angel that talked with me said unto me, I will show thee what these be. And the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, these are they whom the Lord has sent to walk to and fro through the earth.
To and fro in the earth. We just talked about it. It's these spirits that walk to and fro in the earth, right? Read on.
And they answered the Lord, and they answered the angel of the Lord, right, that stood among the myrtle trees, and said, we have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, all the earth sitteth still and is at rest.
Come on.
And the angel of the Lord answered and said, O Yahawah of hosts, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, against which thou hast had indignation these 70 years?
Right, so these 70 years, right? How long will you continue to have indignation on Jerusalem and Judah, the children of Israel, right? Read on.
And the Lord and Yahweh answered the angel that talked with me with good words and comfortable words.
Come on.
So the angel that communed with me said unto me, cry thou, saying, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy.
Now, why is God jealous for us? Right? Again, mind you, we're just coming off of the imagery of these spirits, these horses that represent spirits going to and from the earth. Right? Horses transport things. The children of Israel have just been transported all over the world, right? We continue to get transported all over the world, right? Due to what our iniquity, due to our sin, right? Keep that in mind, right? Read on.
Now, therefore, thus saith the Lord, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies.
With what?
With mercies.
With mercies, read on.
My house shall be built in it.
My house shall be built in it, right? God's going to build his house, right? But before, again, we looked at Zechariah 6, right? The branch, which is Yahawashi, he was going to come to build the house, right? Build a spiritual house, right?
Salaki, we jumped.
Get us, huh?
We jumped 15, Salaki.
Right? We'll get to that in a second, right? But we just talked about that, right? How Yahawashi came and he built that spiritual house, right? He's the chief cornerstone thereof, right? And we're getting measured in the building of that house based off of that cornerstone, meaning you have to be aligned with Christ. You need to abide in Christ. And how do we abide in Christ? By keeping God's commandments. And this is exactly what was said in the beginning. The Most High God's been displeased with our forefathers because they did what? They sinned against us, sinned against him. This is why we have to return and keep God's commandments, right? And Yahawashi, again, he's that example. He's that chief cornerstone coming to show us how to get in line, right? So that the house of God could get built, right? So read verse 15.
Verse 15, it said, and I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease.
Come on.
For I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction.
So God was a little displeased with them, but they took it overboard, right? Essentially, what God's saying. Now, of course, God's ultimately in control of all things. God created all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. And this is why he's going to put belt to ass on the heathen, right? That have been at ease. He's displeased at them, right? You know, Paul talks about, like, in Romans 9, he says, well, why then hast thou he found fault? For who have resisted his will? No one's, because that's a great question. Why is God finding fault? Why is God displeased with them when they're only no one can resist his will? But here's the thing: you as a man, who are you to reply against God? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? You can't, right? Even the prophet Isaiah said, Lord, why hast thou caused us to err from thy ways, right? So the Most High God is in control of all things, right? But this language is being used again so that we can understand with our finite human minds, right? How it talks about how his ways are higher than our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts, right? As the heavens are higher than the earth, right? So this is being explained in this way because again, he has to condescend and speak to a people that are beneath him, right? That are beneath his pay grade, right? And he sends his angels and he sends his prophets to give them the warning and to put it in a way in which they should get it, right? Read on.
Again, verse 16, therefore thus saith the Lord, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. My house shall be built in it, saith the Lord of hosts, and a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem.
Come on. Now, what's this line? So again, this line, right? If anyone's ever been in construction, right, you have something called a plumb line, right? Mm-hmm. I watch a lot of guys like build log cabins and stuff in the woods, right? And what they'll do as they're building log cabins or they're building like a cabin out of stone, things of that nature, you'll set your cornerstone or your corner post, right? And you'll take a line, right, and you'll bring it to whatever breadth or width or length thereof, right? And then you will go around said foundation to start building. That line is so that you can line up and get measured so that the house is not lopsided, right? And it's not structurally compromised, right? You have to have what's called a plumb line. This is just very practical examples that are being used for people who had to build their houses. I understand the world we live in today. The vast majority of us never planted anything. The vast majority of us have never built anything, right? So a lot of times when we read these things, we have no clue what's going on because we've discontinued from our heritage so much, right? So I'm just trying to explain this so that brothers and sisters can get a more deeper understanding of what's going on and what's being portrayed here, right? Read on.
So again, it's not just like everybody's discontinued at this point. You know, even not just us, even the heathen, a lot of us are discontinued from a lot of things. Like that's why they call this the new world. The old world, generally a man child grew up learning these things. A woman child grew up learning the things of a woman. These so everybody's discontinued from that.
Especially if you live in a Western society where
Right.
everything's been made very easy and convenient
Right.
for you, right?
Right.
But let's continue.
17.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I'll read 17 again. Cry yet, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread abroad,
Uh-huh.
and the Lord shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem.
Come on.
Then lifted I up mine eyes and saw, and behold, 4 horns.
4 horns, huh? Read on.
And I said unto the angel that talked with me, What be these? And he answered me, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, Jerusalem, and Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem.
Uh-huh. Read on.
And the Lord shewed me 4 carpenters.
Right. So we see 4 horns, right? These 4 horns, they scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So this is essentially saying all 12 tribes. These are the horns or the powers. Horns represent kingdoms, right? Or powers. These are the powers that scatter the children of Israel, right? And the 10 horn, this lines up with Daniel chapter 7, right? There's 10 horns, and there's another little horn that comes up out of one of the 7 heads, right? That little horn is America, right? So that's one of the 11 horns, right? So the other 10 horns, we got Belgium, Denmark, France, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Greece, Spain/Portugal, England/Ireland, and then Germany. Those are the 10 horns. The little horn, America, springs out of what? Out of England, right? Because America was an English colony, right? That little horn comes from amongst the horns, right? Look was more stout than his fellows, right? Spoke bold and blasphemous things against the Most High, thought to change laws and times, right? All that good stuff, right? And this all comes out of what? The Roman Empire. The Western European power structure, right? All stems from what? From the Roman Empire, right? So the 4 horns, specifically in Zechariah 1, that's being described, the U.S., Britain, France, Spain/Portugal. You look at the transatlantic slave trade, the Portuguese and the Spanish was running that shit, right? They represent 1 horn. Then you got the British coming, then you got the French. Just look at the territory that the British, the French, Spain/Portugal had, right? Spain had all of South America with the exception of Brazil. Brazil had the most slaves brought to there collectively. So just looking at South America, you got 1 horn. South and Central America. And then not even just that, you had Mexico and even parts of the North America. Spain had control over. Then you had the French enslaved, right? Had their colonies and of course Haiti, right? They had Louisiana, right? They had much of the West, and then you got Britain. Of course, you got the 10 colonies, right? These are the ones that scattered the children of Israel, right? And of course, America is again the little horn that comes up out of Britain. They're one of those horns as well, right? And they had control over us, right? And that little horn begins to make war with the saints, as we see in the book of Daniel says, right? So these are these horns, right? And then it says that he saw 4 carpenters. Here's where China comes in, right? Here's China in biblical prophecy, right? Read on.
Again, verse 20, and the Lord showed me 4 carpenters. Then said I, What come these to do? And he spake, saying, These are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these are come to fray them.
These are come to fray them, right? I'm going to see what the ESV said. These are come to fray them, right? Says these have come to terrify them. What powers come to terrify the West? Right? We'll get to that, right? Read on.
To cast down the horns of the nations who lifted up their horns against the land of Judah to scatter it.
Right. So a horn, right? Look at a ram, look at a bull, right? Their power comes from what? Their horns. Right. You can watch videos of a goddamn wildebeest impale a damn lion. Right. So the horn, right? You ever watch videos of this nigga Tony Baker? He's funny as hell. He got all the little animal voiceover. He got the all these rams, right? They just goats and rams just love just headbutting you, right? They are nutcases, right? But the horns is their power, right? They fight each other, right, for territory and for exert dominance. That's what a horn represents. So these horns are the nations that scattered again the children of Israel, which are again America, Britain, Spain / Portugal, and France. Those are the 4 horns. There's 4 carpenters. The Hebrew word there is karash, right? A carpenter. That word is also translated as smith or blacksmith, right? So we're gonna get that real quick in the book of Isaiah. These 4 carpenters come to destroy and terrify and fray these horns. And these original 4 horns, 4 carpenters, are Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Right now known as the BRICS. Right. So you had Brazil, Russia, India, and China. When I was in college, right, I was in college from 2010 to 2015. Right, I learned about BRIC. Brazil, Russia, India, and China. They were emerging economies, right, that were clicked up. Then South Africa got added. And then since then, a whole bunch of countries got added, including who? Iran. Iran is part of BRICS, right? So the BRIC, which is headed primarily by Russia and China, they're the strongest militarily, right? And economically, they're the strongest of that coalition. And that coalition's come together to fray, to terrify, to destroy the Western European power structures that have scattered the children of Israel. The Most High God always uses, he used the Babylonians to whoop our ass. Then he used the Medo-Persians to whip the Babylonians' ass. Through the Medo-Persians, they allowed us to come back to our land to rebuild our temple, right? Then he used the Greeks to beat the Medo-Persians' ass, right? Then used the Romans to beat the Greeks' ass, right? The Most High God, Daniel 4 says that God reigneth in the kingdoms of men, and he chooseth whomsoever he will, right? And he sets up over the bases of men, right? The Most High God exalts who he wants to exalt and puts them in power, right? The book of Proverbs 16 says that the Lord created all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil, right? So the Most High God is using everything for his purpose, right? So this is where China plays in, right? So now, as we look at this war, right, let's go, right, before we dive into that, right, I want to take a look at the significance of chariots, right, in the scriptures, right? So let's go to Psalm chapter 20. Okay. Right, I just want to show the significance of chariots. This is important, right? Lord in Christ.
From the top.
Psalm 20 and start verse 6. Start verse 5.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, that was weird.
No, that was right out back of my house. That sounded like a kind of bomb for real. You said 20.
Start verse 5.
Psalm 20 and verse 5. We will rejoice in thy salvation, and in the name of our God, we will set up our banners. Yahawah fulfill all thy petitions.
Right. Yahawah is our banner, right? Read on. And banners are also other imagery that's used in warfare, right? When armies march, they have banners, right? So you know who this army is, who that army is, right? Same way that armies today have uniforms, right? Read on.
That's like when you see, they got it, in sports, like in the NFL, when their teams come out, they got the so-called cheerleaders. They fly the banner out before the team, the fighting team comes out.
You got banners up in the rafters, right? All the championships and whatnot, right? These banners are important, right? Read on.
Verse 6. Now know I that the Lord saveth his anointed.
Saveth his anointed. Who is his anointed? The children of Israel. We are his chosen, right? Read on.
He will hear him from his holy heaven with the saving strength of his right hand.
With the saving strength of his right hand. Who's his right hand? Mashiach Yahawashi. Right, read on.
Some trust in chariots.
Some trust in chariots, read on.
And some in horses.
Come on.
But we will remember the name of Yahawah, our God. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright.
Come on.
Save Yahawah. Let the king hear us when we call.
Right. Let Yahawah hear us when we call. Right. Let's get Isaiah chapter 31 in verse 1.
Isaiah 31 verse 1. Woe to them that go down into Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots.
And trust in what?
And trust in chariots.
See, human beings, they trust in their military might. They trust in their weapons. The weapons of our warfare is not what? Carnal, right? Now, that doesn't mean that, you can't have a weapon to protect yourself physically, right? But we got to understand that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but of powers and principalities in dark and high places, right? There's all these spiritual demons that the heathen are worshiping, right? Looking at everything with the state of Israel, right? Looking at everything with this pedo Epstein ring, right? These people worship Baal, right? They sacrifice children, they eat children, they worship these crazy dark demons, right? That are adverse to life. We have to trust in the Most High God, right? So we understand that because they're dealing with these high places and these dark entities, that's why all the evil is being done in the earth, right? So yes, we have to deal with the physical, but as above, so below. The what's up top is controlling what's going on right now down here in the physical, right? So some trust in horses, some trust in chariots, right? Read on.
Even so, like we see it in in the wilderness when we went to war, right? When we started sinning and Moses told us not to go up to war, not to go to war because the Lord wasn't with us.
Yep.
It's that simple. At the end of the day, we rely on the Lord, right? But
absolutely,
we shouldn't be war ready ourselves. Again, woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots because they are many. And in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord.
Right, we have to seek the Lord, right? Let's get Psalm 68 and 17, right? Psalm 68 and 17. So, right, we trust in the Lord, right? Because the Lord, he's known as the Lord of hosts. He's a man of war, right?
This is Psalm 68, verse 17. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place.
Right. So the Most High God, he has chariots, right? And there's thousands of them, right? And they're what? Filled with angels, right? These angels, they maneuver through these chariots, right? Which colloquially today are known as UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, or so-called UFOs, unidentified flying objects, right? There's my bathroom window. Almost every night there's a chariot right out front of my window, right? When we at camp, right? Every time we at camp, there's always a chariot right in the distance as we're at camp, right? We see them all the time, right? We've seen them all the time, right? And these are the angels of the Lord, right? They encamp around about them that fear him. Right? This is why it's important that you keep God's commandments, right? They also are the eyes of the Lord, beholding what? The works and the sins of man, right? They're messengers, and they come back to tell the Most High God what you evil niggas are doing. Right? The scripture say that there are some that only fear the eyes of men, not knowing that the eyes of the Lord are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, right? Beholding all the iniquity of men, right? So now, let's also go to Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 15, right? So we see how man's chariots, right? We don't put our trust in man's chariots. We have to put our trust in the Most High God's chariots, right? And his chariots, right? They can be coming to redeem you or save you, or they can be coming to put belt to ass, right? So let's get Isaiah 66 and verse 15.
This is Isaiah 66, verse 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots, like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire.
Come on.
For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith Yahawah.
So those chariots can come to consume your ass, or they can come to deliver you, right? They can come to do what verse 19 says, right? It says, I will set a sign among them and will send those that escape of them unto the nations, right? What? To gather what? The children of Israel, to bring us back, right? Verse 20 says, that they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations upon horses and in chariots, right? So the chariots are important, right? The chariots of the Lord. The chariots of men, the weapons of men, carnal weapons, those are not that important, right? Because the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We have to be spiritually minded, right? In order to elevate, you have to be spiritually minded. How can one be spiritually minded, right? What is it? What does it mean to be in the spirit, right? Christ said in John 6:63, it is the spirit that quickeneth, right, which makes alive. The flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak to, their spirit and life. So following the words, abiding in the word of God, abiding in Yahawashi, and following the example that he set, that's how you operate and move in the spirit, right? That's, and in order to be spiritually minded, you have to meditate on the word of God, right? So now that
for we know the law is spiritual.
Yep. But I am carnal, so in the sin, when you're sinning, now you're being carnal, right? So now let's get again, show also Moab, right? Show China further in prophecy, right? So let's go to Numbers chapter 24, right? Because we're waiting for that deliverance, right? So let's go to Numbers chapter 24 and 17. Mind you, Numbers, right? These last couple chapters, like 22, 23, 24, Balak, the king of Moab, did what? He hired Balaam from Mesopotamia, who was an enchanter, a soothsayer, right? We're told not to be soothsayers, right? We're told not to be enchanters, right? He sought Balaam to curse Israel. Now, mind you, the Most High God sent a donkey to tell Balaam, listen, nigga, right? I've seen no iniquity in Jacob. Meanwhile, we were just sinning, right? All throughout the wilderness, doing all types of bullshit, right? But the heathen, who's the heathen to talk to our God, try to curse us, right? They can't curse us. We curse ourselves through what? Through our disobedience, right? So again, we're talking about China, right? Moab, right? We're talking about the pride of Moab, right? Man, these goddamn pandas are proud as all hell, right? Proud and goofy. You ever watch the panda in captivity? Niggas are goofy ass pandas, right? So you got Xi Jinping, right? They fucking Winnie the Pooh over here, right? This nigga actually banned Winnie the Pooh in China because everyone was saying that he looked like Winnie the Pooh, right? So this little freaking panda bear over here, right? These Moabites, they're proud as all hell, right? And they try to curse the children of Israel. They try to curse black folk, right? So-called Latino folk, right? So-called Native American folk here in the Western Hemisphere. And instead of a curse, they had to bless us, right? Balaam had to bless us, right? So let's jump down to verse 17. Actually, 17.
Numbers 24 and verse 17.
Actually, start verse 16.
Verse 16. He hath said, which heard the words of God, and knew the knowledge of the Most High, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open.
Right, he fell into a trance, right? Now, the book of Joshua says that he was a soothsayer, right? So all you niggas that be smoking weed, you're a bunch of soothsayers, and you be falling into little high trances, and you niggas try to be, some of you goofy niggas, so-called in the truth, right? Try to come up with some deep, dark fucking breakdown, right? Because you've been
yourself,
enlightened through the blood, through idolatry and witchcraft, right? Kind of like a nigga like Balaam, right? Read on.
Verse 17, I shall see him, but not now.
Uh-huh.
I shall behold him, but not now.
Uh-huh.
There shall come a star out of Jacob. A scepter shall rise out of Israel.
Now, this star, this who has this scepter, this is Hamashiach Yahawashi, right? The Davidic Messiah, right? Now, mind you, again, the army, right? These military leaders are telling these non-commissioned officers that this war is to bring upon Armageddon and the return of Christ, right? So Christ is returning soon, Lord willing, sooner rather than later, right? He don't listen. He still don't know when he's coming back. He's sitting at the right hand of the Father, like just itching, right? Ready to you know what I mean, stomp something out, right? Read on.
There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab.
Shall smite what?
The corners of Moab.
So when Christ returns, he's going to smite the corners of Moab, right? Let's take a look at this word for corner. I think this word just means borders. Corner, edge, extremity, quarter. Properly, from mouth in a figurative sense, i.e., direction, region, extremity, corner, end, quarter side, right? So essentially like the borders, right? Let's see what word is used.
Yeah, because NLT and GNT
on the east side, yeah. So yeah, there's like the boundaries, the corner, right? I'm gonna see. This is the word that's used in Malachi. Let's see, this is what's used in Malachi.
A lot of them are translating it to head, the head of Moab.
Let's see.
That or the brow.
Yeah, so you look at Leviticus 19. It says, 19 says, when you eat the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly reap the corners, the edges of thy field, neither shalt thou gather the gleanings of thy harvest. Right. Verse 27 says, ye shall not round the corners of thy head, right, the sides of your head, neither shalt thou moor the sides of thy beard. Right. So we did a breakdown on that. Right.
Okay.
This don't have nothing to do with getting the shape up. Right.
Nothing to do with a lineup.
Nothing to do with the lineup. Now, the part where it says marring the sides of your beard, you cannot shave the sides of your beard off, right? No goatee, right? Rounding your head has to do with artificial cranial deformation, right? To make your head elongated, right? And that was what the Canaanites did in the worship of El, right? We're told not to do that, right? So this is where this word is used, right? So again, it's the ed, like what's the corners of Moab? Moab's territory, right? Right. So read on.
I shall smite the corners of Moab and destroy all the children of Sheth.
So smite the corners of Moab and destroy all the children of Sheth, right? Read on.
And Edom shall be a possession. Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly.
Come on.
Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth of the city.
Come on.
And
so basically, God saying he's gonna. Well, God gave this for Balaam to tell Balak, right? Listen, Christ, my son gonna come back and he's gonna fuck you Moabites up, right? Because again, who hired him? The Moabite,
right?
Balak of Moab, right? He's gonna come and smite you niggas, right? The Edomites, right? They're gonna be possession, right? For Israel, right? This is what's getting ready to happen when who is returning? When Christ returns, right? Read on.
And shall destroy him that remaineth of the city. Verse 20. And when he looked on Amalek,
Amalek is one of the dukes of Edom, right? It's basically like the way you have tribes of Israel, you have dukedoms of Edom, right? So you got Judah, you got Ephraim, you got Naphtali, you got Dan, you got Zepho, you got Eliphaz, you got Teman, you got Amalek. Amalek's one of these dukedoms, right? And Amalek today is the so-called Ish people, the small hats, right? They're Edomites, they are the Amalekites. So it says when he looked upon Amalek, right? Read on.
He took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations.
The first of the nations. The word first is Ra'ash, right? Which means the head. He's the first of the head of the nations. Who's the head of everything right now? Again, we talked about this in the onset of this live. Who controls America? Who's the head of all these nations? It's Israel.
Right.
Amalek, the Zionist state of Israel, which are not actually Israelites. They're the synagogue of Shaitan, right? They are Edomites. They are the Amalekites. So they're the first or the top of the nations, right? Read on.
We see that in Ezekiel 36 and 5, which we went into was last week.
Yep.
Right? Right. He said, and when he looked at Amalek, he took up a parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he should perish forever.
Right. So again, here's Moab, right? China in prophecy. Again, right? Let's go now, right? And let's dive into there's so much. All right, let's hit Revelation 9 and 13. Revelation 9 and 13.
Revelation 9 verse 13.
Uh-huh.
And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God.
Come on.
Saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates.
Uh-huh.
And the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year.
Let's slow down, right? So when we're looking at Revelation, right? In Revelation we see seven seals, we see seven trumpets, and then we see seven vials, right? When we look at how this works, right, and how it corresponds, right, there's the Lamb. He's given a scroll, right, and he's the only one that's worthy to remove the seals thereof. He's the only one, right? And when he removes a seal, then a trumpet sounds, right? He removes a seal, and then an angel who has a trumpet sounds the trumpet, right? We're talking about the sixth trumpet, right? Now, the sixth trumpet, right, is going into the destruction of Babylon, ultimately, right? It's going into the destruction of Babylon, okay? There's a sixth seal, right? Yahawashi, he removes that seal, then that trumpet sounds, right? And then that last trump is the deliverance of the children of Israel, right? From Babylon, right? So read on.
Verse 16, again, verse 15. And the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay a third part of men.
So again, this is all. So we have the central theme here, the river Euphrates, right? And we're going to get into what else the book of Revelation says about the river Euphrates and how this ties into who? China, right? Read on.
Okay.
So in this destruction, right, it says that a third part of men are going to be slayed. We live in a world of about 8 billion people. A third of 8 billion people is 2.6 billion with a B people, right? Listen, you ever watch I love Austin Powers movies, right? Hilarious, right? And Dr. Evil says, why have billions when you can have millions? No. God says, why have millions when I can have billions? A third part of men are going to die in the destruction that's coming to this earth, right? Again, we read in the beginning, right? 2 Ezra 9, the Most High God, right? He's spoken prophecy, right? And someone who is diligent enough to measure the time diligently will understand that when you see certain signs pass, no, it is exactly what the Most High God already told us would happen, right? And these are the beginning of sorrows, right? And these things must come to pass, right? And it's ultimately for the deliverance of the children of Israel, right? And the establishment of the kingdom of heaven, which will be here on earth, right? That the catalyst to that happening is the return of Christ, right? Christ is the one opening these seals. Angels are blowing these trumpets. As they blow these trumpets and as Yahawashi opens these seals, destruction comes upon the earth to the people on the earth for their evil. We live in a very evil world. Yahawashi talked about in Matthew 24 that his return shall be likened unto the days of Noah. Because in the days of Noah, they were giving in marriage, eating and drinking, having a good old time until the flood came and wiped them niggas out. God killed had to be billions of people, right? Saved 8 people. This is the God that we're talking about. Allah Shadja, the great, terrible, and demon-like power, right? The Most High God is in control of all things. He is the Lord of hosts, right? He got hitters on the left, hitters on the right, okay? And he's going to do what he sees fit, right? He's in control of all things. And none can deliver out of his hand, right? And this is what this is going into, right? So read on.
Verse 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200.
Army of the what?
Of the horsemen.
Of the horsemen, right? Read on.
Or 200,000. And I heard the number of them.
Come on.
And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire.
Having breastplates of fire. So this is going on into these modern military vehicles that are part of modern warfare, right? When we read elsewhere in Revelation, it talks about locusts, right? It's going into the planes that we saw during the World War I, right? Again, here we're just talking about these ferocious, insane, technologically advanced weapons that John the Revelator had no clue what the hell they were. And this is the only way he could describe them. I saw these things with fucking breastplates of fire and brimstone coming down, like all types of destruction. These bombers, right? These aircraft, right? That shoot these missiles. This is what this is going into, right? Read on.
You want to just jump to 20?
Jump to verse 18.
Verse 18. By these 3 was the third part of men killed by the fire and by the smoke and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths.
Come on.
For their power is in their mouth and in their tail.
Come on.
For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt.
Come on.
And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet repented not of the works of their hand.
Come on.
That they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk.
Come on.
Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts.
Right. So all this stuff, right? All these signs, like again, we be going to camp, right? And we be telling our people, listen, it's high time to wake up out of sleep, repent. The kingdom of heaven's at hand, right? All this stuff that's going on in the world, this is all for amendment, for you to change your ways, right? Even through all of these fantastic things that the Most High God is getting ready to do, right? Mind, this is the same God that split an entire ocean, right? A sea, right? The Red Sea for us to walk through. And a few days later, niggas like, a month or so later, niggas like, man, make us some golden calves. Let's worship this. This is the God that delivers us out of the land of Egypt. What? He just told us not to worship idols. And niggas went right back to doing it. This is what we're talking about, right? So niggas is not going to repent, right? So this is going into, all right, the 6th trumpet, right, which is the destruction that's going to come through World War III, right? The 3rd woe. Now, again, it talks about the Euphrates River, right? These angels are bound in the Euphrates River, and when they are released, brings upon all types of destruction. Let's look elsewhere where the Euphrates River is talked about in biblical prophecy in the book of Revelation. Let's go to Revelation chapter 16. Revelation 16, I think I want verse 8. Yep, we're gonna read verse 8.
Revelation 16 verse 8. The fourth angel poured out his veil upon the sun.
His vial.
His vial upon the sun. And power was given unto him to scorch men with fire.
So now, right, what we're in Revelation, right? We got these seals, and we got these trumpets. Yahawashi, the Lamb, he's the one opening the seals. Angels are blowing the trumpets, right? And there's angels that have these bowls, these vials, right? And their job is to pour upon destruction on the earth, right? So look at verse 2, it says, and the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon which worshipped his image, right? So now we were taught that the image of the beast is white supremacy, right? And I'm not necessarily sure I believe that to be the case per se. I guess it's still kind of tied in with how I'm kind of looking at it now, right? But we know the mark of the beast is the RFID microchip, right? Now, the RFID microchip, right, not having that mark will essentially prevent you from engaging in commerce, right? They're getting ready to change this economic system where everything's going to be what? Digital. What is going to enable this economic framework to be digital? What's going to be one of the key components? AI, right? I'm starting to lean and think that AI might be the image of the beast, because the AI is going to help enable them to be able to track you with this mark of the beast. AI is taking over everything, right? And
even if you think of AI, right?
It's an image of man. It's literally fashioned after us.
Yeah. Typically, I would say Esau.
It's fashioned after Esau, where
Esau's so-called intelligence.
And Esau's in control of it. Esau, the one who has control. Like, look at ChatGPT. Who owns that?
Mm-hmm.
The small hats, right? How do the small hats reign? The white supremacy. So yeah, it's ties into it, but I think it's a little bit deeper, right? The AI is part of the image of the beast, because we as human beings are made in the image of God, right? In the image and the likeness of God. AI is made at the image and likeness of men, right? Artificial intelligence. Like, our existence, us being alive, right, is via the fact that we have spirits inside of our flesh, which brings upon something known as a soul, napash, psyche, the way that you think, right? There is a French philosopher by the name of Descartes, and he was a believer in the Bible, and he said, "I think, therefore I am." The fact that I'm able to think is evidence of the fact that I exist, or that I am, right? So what has man done now? They've created artificial intelligence to think like human beings. I just saw something where they have these niggas took brain cells,
and put it in a
in Doom. Makes these brain cells play Doom. Right? They took the brain cells of flies. They got flies doing all types of shit. Imagine these brain cells, right? They're taking human cells, replicating them, right, and using those cells to think, and to play a video game like Doom, a first person shooter game.
Right.
That's essentially fucking hell that they got this human consciousness in, right? And the scriptures talk about there's going to be a son of perdition that will be revealed, right? And he's going to sit in the temple of God as if he's God. The so-called white man, through white supremacy, has a God complex. And these billionaire elites, their job, their goal is to create a one world government, one world religion, right? To create a new world order, right? That is going to be ran through AI, right? They can track everything that you do, track everything that you buy, right? Through the RFID microchip. It's all interconnected. There's a show, right? I highly suggest brothers and sisters watch it, right? Super. If you look at it from a spiritual eye, you know that these niggas are just playing in our faces as they always were, right? So there's a show on Hulu, it's a Hulu original called Paradise, starring the brother, what's the nigga name? Sterling.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. Brother just put me on that in my job today,
bro. Right. So here's the plot. Right, the world's getting ready to be destroyed. Right, the world's getting ready to be destroyed. Scientists predict that a mega volcano in Antarctica is going to erupt. It does, puts a bunch of ash into the sky, right? Plunges the world into like damn near like a freaking ice age type situation. Triggers a bunch of tsunamis. A bunch of people get killed in these coastal cities, and as that's happening, right, Russia launches nukes. And while all that's they're predicting this stuff, the elites are doing what? They're building big ass. They're digging in the mountains and creating a city in the mountains for, of course, the elites and certain people to live in. The Bible talks about this type of stuff.
Yep.
And these devils are definitely doing that, right? They show you what they're doing in all of these movies, right? So the point is this, right? Our enemy, Esau, he is crafty. He is diabolical. He is doing things, right? Because he has this God complex, and he's trying to create. This is why you got all these theories about niggas talking about, oh, we live in a simulation.
Right.
This is all Edomitic thought, right? Because they're so far from God, right? And because they don't truly worship the Most High God, right? They worship Satan.
Mm-hmm.
They put all this nonsense out here, and a lot of niggas eat it up, right? There's a brother. He's an interesting brother. He has a show called The Maverick Approach on YouTube. I also follow him on Instagram, right? And he gets into a lot of these conspiracies and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, a lot of these conspiracies are true. But niggas talking about God, we're living in a simulation. We do not live in a goddamn simulation, right? That is nonsense. But
was trying to say this
thinking, right? Because shout out to the tribe of Benjamin, right? The so-called white man, right? Him too bad mind, right? The Bible says, consider the work of God who can make straight what he has made crooked, right? Scripture say that the soul that's within him is not upright, right? Because Esau him too bad mind. Him too bad mind. His mind is just sick, right? So they're doing all of these things because they had this God complex, and they just want to create a society, right, where you have the uber rich that can control the world, depopulate the world, right? Use AI to primarily run things, right, and have humanity in just like this stupid ass state. That's their goal, right? But of course, their goals are their plans are going to be foiled because the word of the Most High God will not return unto him void, right? So going back to Revelation chapter 16, rather, right? We see these bowls, right? These vials, these angels, they pour them out, and these are the 7 last plagues that are poured out on the earth. The first one, there's a noisome and grievous sword that falls upon all the men that receive the mark of the beast, all right, and them that worship the image. So if the image is AI, how could you worship the image? By bowing down to the powers that be, taking their mark, right? The RFID microchip, which again can be partially powered through AI, right? You've accepted his mark and you've worshipped his image because now, right, you're just in this AI. You have AI integrated in you, right? So we see all these bowls, right? A whole bunch of judgment gets poured out, right? I'm gonna just jump down to verse 8. Yeah, bring that out, verse 8.
And the 4th angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire.
Right. So again, we hear about what? Climate change, right? Solar flares, how the sun is getting hotter, right? It was just freaking 80 degrees in Philadelphia, right? The past 3-4 days, and then it dropped down a damn 30 something degrees, and we had a couple little snow flurries, right? These devils is playing God, playing with the damn weather, right? Creating damn clouds, chemtrail, all this stuff. This is what Esau's doing, right? Because when Esau's giving the helm to the world, right, he's been crashing this shit into an iceberg, right? This is why the scriptures say, destroy them that destroy the earth. The white man, since he's gotten the power, he has destroyed the earth. He created a world in which the whole world runs on oil. You need oil for everything, right? Anyone, all right, another good show to watch the show Landman. Landman is a great show, right? And I think it's the first season. He said, listen, man, bump, goddamn solar, wind, this, that, and there, blah, 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 right? Oil will always be king, right? You're never, even if we run out of oil, right? It takes oil to build the solar plant, the solar panels, the wind turbines, all of the other alternative forms of energy. They create a world where you have to. You need oil, right? Just ask our brothers, the tribe of Manasseh down in Cuba right now.
Right.
They got no oil, and the people are starving. Think about it. In order to harvest crops, you need tractors, you need farming equipment. All of that needs oil, right? It needs gasoline. To ship that, you need everything runs on oil. And this is why America invaded Venezuela. This is why they're trying to control Iran's oil, right? This is why Trump is lifting sanctions on Russian oil temporarily, right? It's because, again, Esau has tried to set a trap, but the Most High God put him in the trap, put him in a trick bag, right? And now he's crumbling. And China being prudent and understanding that, oh, snap, this is about to happen. The U.S. is finna do this. Let's import 60% more oil so that we're good. And now, because we're giving Iran technology, intelligence in their defending of their own country, they're only allowing oil to come to us. So China, they're chilling. Meanwhile, here in America, right, gas prices in California, $8 a goddamn gallon. Right? I used to work in Jersey, right? I would go to Jersey, I would fill up in Jersey, I get gas $2.79. Now gas like $3.40 in Jersey. Here in Philly, it's even higher, right? This is going to cripple the economy. And it's going to give them a reason to reset the system to implement what? The mark of the beast, right? So again, these 7 last vials, these are being poured on men, on the earth to destroy men, right? Especially those that have done what? Taken the mark of the beast and worship the image of the beast, right? Read on.
Verse 9, and men were scorched with great heat and blasphemed the name of God, which had power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory.
So even through all of this, people are still not going to give the Most High the glory, and they're not going to repent. They're not going to stop being evil. They're going to not stop doing all this bullshit that they've been doing, right? Verse 10.
Verse 10, and the 5th angel poured out his vial upon the sea of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness.
And his kingdom was what?
Full of darkness.
Full of darkness, right? Darkness is coming into this kingdom, right? Read on.
And they gnawed their tongues for pain, and blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds.
Come on.
And the 6th angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates. The great river Euphrates, right? Again, we talked about the Euphrates River, Revelation 9, right? We talked about the Euphrates River last week's lesson, right? Where we talked about greater Israel, right? The promised land from the Nile to the Euphrates River, and this is what the Zionist state of Israel, which are Edomites, what they're trying to take control over. This is why they're doing false flag attacks on Oman and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and whatnot, all these Gulf countries, right? They're trying to get them to go to war with Iran because Iran is the power that's keeping them in check, right? The Saudis, right, and all these other Gulf countries, they're in bed with Israel, right? Because a lot of the rulers there are Edomites to begin with.
right? Because we look at the prophecy, it talks about how the four beasts, which is the Roman Empire, which were Edomites, how they would mingle their seed amongst all men, right? And again, this is indicative of that statue that Nebuchadnezzar sees. We're at the feet, the feet of partly clay and partly iron. They're gonna mingle their seed amongst men, but they're not gonna be joined one to another, because you can't join clay and iron, right? And this just goes to show how weak this system is, and how it's going to be so easy for when the Most High God sends the Son back to really put belt to ass and to destroy all the kingdoms of the earth, right? And to establish the kingdom of Israel, a kingdom of righteousness, the true kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of the Yasharahla, right? Which will be ruled by the true saints of God, right? So it says that the angels are going to pour out their vial upon the great river Euphrates. Read on.
Okay. And the water thereof was dried up.
Was what?
Was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared.
The way of the kings of the east might be prepared, right? So now, who are the kings of the east? Right? Again, looking at the bricks versus the horns, looking at the bricks versus the beast, right? You got the Western European power structure, America, NATO, the EU. That's the Western world. And then you have the kings of the east, Russia, right? You got China, India, right? Iran's part of that too, right? East versus the West, okay? And this ultimately culminates in Armageddon, right? And again, what are these soldiers talking? Are these military guys talking about? Oh, this war is to bring upon Armageddon, the return of Jesus, right? So again, we're in perilous times, family. We're getting very, very close, and it's high time that our people wake up out of sleep. If you're in the knowledge of the truth and you've been bullshitting, you've been pussyfooting, being lukewarm, right? It's time that you light the fire and get your shit together. High time, right? Get your shit together. Pay the Most High God what you owe him, which is your obedience. Okay? So now, right, it's preparing the way for the kings of the east, right? So they can come down to what? To the valley of decision, right? We read about that in Joel, the 3rd chapter, right? To read about the Valley of Jehoshaphat. All this stuff. You got the Valley of Jehoshaphat. You got the Battle of Armageddon, right? All of this stuff is all eschatology, end time prophecy, right? So now let's just go to Jeremiah chapter 50, right? Jeremiah 50 and start at verse 33. Right. So all of this is for what? Ultimately the destruction of Babylon. Right.
33. Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel. The children of Israel and the children of Judah were pressed together. And all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go.
Come on.
Their Redeemer is strong. Yahawah of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon.
Come on.
A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Yahawah, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men.
Right. So again, right, there is Babylon, right, who have oppressed the children of Israel. Babylon being America, right? America has been the big bad bully, right? The scriptures call Babylon the hammer of the whole earth. America's been going around being the hammer of the whole earth, right? Just wrecking shop, right? But the Most High God raised up 4 carpenters to fray, to frighten, to destroy America and the Western European power structure, right? Read on.
Verse 36, right? A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed.
What's going on right now, right? They're about to send 5,000 troops over to Iran, right? What's going to happen? They're going to get dismayed, right? Read on.
A sword is upon their horses, upon their chariots and
their
upon
horses and their chariots, right? Again, the ancient horse and chariot is the equivalent of modern day aircraft carriers and bombers and things of that nature, right? This is what really changes the tide of a battle, right? It says that the sword is on their horses and their chariots. What's happening, right? You got American planes getting shot down, defense systems getting shot down, getting destroyed. Iran done destroyed 4 out of 8 of the THAAD defense systems. So much so that America, right, in their attempt to save their pimp, right, to protect their daddy, to protect the Zionist state of Israel, they dismantled a THAAD system that they had in South Korea to bring to Israel. Now, here's the cold thing. Who's in South Korea's backyard? China. North Korea. Literally the day after they removed it, what did North Korea do? They did some ballistic missile testing, right? To do what? To scare South Korea, right? And like my good brother Yadi said, right? Yadi died from what's the face? My brother's over at the Masada, right? On my post, I said, watch out for China. What did Yadi say? He says, if I'm China, immediately after this war ends, I'm invading Taiwan. I said, I'd do it while America is spread thin, protecting Israel, right? That's what they should do, right? The Chinese should invade Taiwan while America is too busy, right, getting belt put to ass with Iran, right? Listen, you look at this, the numbers, the economics of this war. Iran is using drones that cost max $50,000, and these drones are causing massive destruction. One intercepted missile costs at least $1 million. So for every $50,000 that they're using, you're spending $1 million. We've already spent within 7 days. We're in day 13. In 7 days, we spent $11.3 billion. This is not sustainable, right? And again, these niggas are talking about, oh, we want to send boots in the ground. This might happen, go until September. Oh, the reason why, just sort of for a record, the reason why they want this war to continue on is to distract from the Epstein files, right? And to distract the country, right? Do false flags, right? Try to steal the midterm elections because Trump has to stay in power, right? The Republicans have to stay in power because if they don't, they're going to get this nigga on out of here, right? So things about to get super crazy, family. And if you're not preparing, most important, spiritually, right? Gotta get prepared spiritually. You also have to get prepared mentally and physically. If you're not prepared physically for what's getting ready to come, famine, race wars, right? Be prepared to not have water. You gotta get prepared for these things. But before you get physically prepared, you got to get spiritually prepared, right? When you look at the history of King Hezekiah did a major building projects, right? They broadened the walls of Jerusalem because the Assyrians were taking a bunch of cities of Judah. I think it was like 40 cities of Judah. You got Lachish, right? You guys undergo the Lachish release. The Assyrians just was destroying our people, taking us into captivity, but they didn't get Jerusalem. But the Most High God used Isaiah to rebuke them because they did all this preparation, but did not seek the Most High God. Right? Niggas was over here doing all this building, preparing with their backs towards the temple. Niggas wasn't seeking the Most High God. Right? So you got to prepare yourself spiritually first, most importantly. Also do the physical preparing, but you got to prepare spiritually. That is of utmost importance, right? And another project they did was they built the tunnels to bring the water from the Gihon Spring. They diverted water from the Gihon Spring into the city, and created what's known as the Pool of Siloam, right? That was to protect the city from when, if the Assyrians came and besieged the city, that we would actually have water, because during a siege, no one comes in, no one comes out. No food. We had food stored up, but in order to make bread, you got all this grain, you got to grind the mill, you need water. Water is life, right? So you got to think about these things, okay? So now, again, if I'm China, all right, I'm taking advantage of this right now. The THAAD system is no longer in South Korea, right? So America is not even going to get notified of missiles flying towards Taiwan if you're China. Then you know you got North Korea, and they listen. Rocket Man can't wait to blow some shit up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait. Okay? So if I'm China, I'm invading Taiwan right now. Right? It's now or never. The ball is in your court, Winnie the Pooh. Right? So let's get back into Jeremiah 50.
Verse
37.
God. A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her.
In the midst of who? Babylon, because America is this great melting pot, right? It talks about how they heap into them all peoples, right? Read on.
And they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed.
Come on.
A drought is upon her waters.
A drought is upon her waters. This is, family, you gotta be prepared. A drought is upon her waters. Read on.
And they shall be dried up, for it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols.
Come on.
God, there's this crazy show, American Idol, I believe it's called, but it's literally just based off. It's like, I forget.
You talking about the singing show or
No, it's a show. It's about idols in America, but it's like, but it's oh man, it's basically this ancient god comes to America, is reawakened or something, and he's seeing basically all the ancient deities being basically reformed in America, and he's like showing how all the people are worshiping these deities now.
Yeah,
but it's reformed. It's crazy. I'm pretty sure it's called American Idol, but it's wild. But
is it sure it's not Lucifer? The show Lucifer?
No, not Lucifer.
Oh, American Gods.
American Gods, not Idol.
American Gods. Yeah, I heard the show American Gods. Yeah, I heard it. I never watched it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's literally what it's about. It's just breaking down how everybody's worshiping all these ancient deities. It's just a slightly reformed.
Yeah, all these bitches in the goddamn strip club, they're worshiping Asherah.
Yeah,
right, they're over here shaking ass on the pole, right, worshiping Asherah. Right, doing fertility, goddamn rituals,
smoking weed, all of that shit. They're doing everything.
All you niggas smoking weed, you're worshiping idols.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's cool. Again, where were we?
Verse 39.
39. Gone. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation.
So again, this is talking about Babylon the Great, because it's talking about the destruction of Babylon, right? Now, when you understand that the Most High God is not a breaker of promises, right? He promised Abraham that he will give his seed the land from the Nile to the great river Euphrates. Last time I checked, Babylon is built where? Right on the Euphrates. Yep. Right. So if ancient Babylon was utterly destroyed, then there wouldn't be Arabians pitching tent there right now. As the scripture said, it won't. Right. And if it got destroyed, then God would be breaking his promise, and he's not a breaker of promises. Right. So continue.
God, as God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighboring cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein.
Again, Sodom and Gomorrah, no one lives there. The neighboring cities that were destroyed, no one lives there. It was utterly destroyed, turned into salt, just salt and ashes, right?
The so-called, what's it called? I forget what they're called, but they went in the area or whatever. And they found places where
sulfur. For the archaeologists.
They had archaeologists, yeah.
Yep.
They were finding sulfur all over the land.
That's coming to America. America's gonna be turned into that, right? Utterly destroyed. Read on.
Verse 41, behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth.
So it says come from the north, right? Where's the north? You got Russia, right? It says a great nation, a bunch of nations from the coast, from the ends of the earth, right? China will be part of that, right? Read on.
Okay. Slakia. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon.
So again, all these nations are going to come against America, right? Now, there's talks about how Israel, that they want to use a nuke, and America trying to talk these niggas off the ledge. Listen, if these niggas use a nuke on Iran, man, it's about to get crazy. You hear me? Like it's about to get wild out here if these niggas do that. And that's what's gonna set it up so that America get done off. Right?
Yep.
Read on.
Yep, that's exactly what's gonna happen. Verse 43, the king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong. But I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me? And who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me?
Come on.
Therefore, hear ye the counsel of Yahawah, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he has purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. So
now we're looking at the destruction of Babylon, right? In a modern sense, understanding that America is Babylon, right? The Bible prophesies that Babylon is going to be utterly destroyed, right? Mind you, Jeremiah is prophesying this as the actual Babylonians are coming and taking the children of Israel into captivity, into ancient Babylon. Ancient Babylon was not destroyed. People still pitch tent there. It's not the kingdom that it was before, right? But people can still walk there, right? I can go camping there right now if I wanted to. If I had the means to, and if I wanted to. But what God's saying is going to happen to Babylon, clearly not talking about ancient Babylon. It's talking about Babylon the Great that we also read about again in Revelation, right? That's America. It says that the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is going to be moved. When you got all these nations that come around about, they have the bow and the lance, right? What do bows shoot? Bows shoot arrows. When a missile is being tested, or when a missile is a dud, it's called a broken arrow, right? We should read all throughout the scripture to talk about how the Lord is going to bend the bow, right? And arrows going to be shot from one end of the earth. An actual bow and arrow, if I took a bow and arrow and I try to shoot it, it's not going to go to the ends of the earth. It may go a couple meters, right? But they ain't going across the ends of the earth, right? These are going from the ends of the earth. And when they land upon Babylon, it says the earth is going to be moved. What moves the earth? Earthquakes. Whenever there are ballistic missile tests and nuclear missile tests, you have seismic activity, you have earthquakes. So that the earth is going to be moved and the cry is going to be heard among the nation. It's going to be a sight to see when Babylon, when America gets destroyed. And then here's the thing, no matter how it shakes out, whether Trump stays in office and he's actually the king of Babylon that's going to be destroyed, or if they get him out of there and they get freaking what's that schmuck's name? Goddamn JD Vance. That nigga is an actual white evangelical Christian. He might be worse than Trump, right? It's just that Trump is a goddamn idiot. He's so easy to freaking handle and maneuver, right? But again, America is circling the drain. This place is getting ready to be destroyed, and Trump is destroying this place from the inside out, right? He's causing all this tension, right? And what you got to keep in mind is they're going to more than likely implement a draft. They implement a draft, this place is going to go up.
Yep.
These Edomites are sick and tired.
They ain't going for it.
They voted for this nigga because they didn't want any more new wars. Let them try to implement a draft and draft their sons and daughters to go fight on behalf of Israel. This place is going to explode. People are going to be rioting in the streets, right? People are going to try to overthrow the government. The Bible talks about in the book of 2 Ezra 15 how there'll be insurrection amongst men, that they will not regard their kings or their princes, right? There's going to be martial laws going to be instituted, right? It's going to be very, very bad. So this is why brothers and sisters have to prepare themselves, again, spiritually, mentally, and physically, right? So now when it comes to China, right? China has been mad about this whole freaking war with Iran because it's disrupting things, right? It's disrupting the economies, right? And then earlier today, I was on that Twitter, and I saw this from Bricks News. Just in, thousands of Chinese fishing boats reportedly massing near Taiwan in the East China Sea. China is playing, right? They're on the cusp of finally pulling the proverbial trigger. China, listen, if somehow President Xi Jinping, right, gets a hold of this video, President Xi, stack up and take what's yours. Go invade Taiwan. Do it right now. Do it while these idiots are getting their missile defense system, their early warning systems destroyed. They just removed one from outside of your neck of the woods. Now's the time, my nigga. Right, go get you listen. Fill up on some damn egg rolls, right? Whatever you want, eat whatever the hell you got to do, right? Get these niggas their best meals and send their asses to go take Taiwan, right? And when we look at what's going on in the news, right? Trump is supposed to go visit China at the end of this month. That trip might very well get canceled, right? When we take a look at the news headlines, right? Where's the one I wanted to look for, right? What just happened? Exclusive. New U.S. weapons for Taiwan could be approved after Trump's China trip, sources say. This is from today. This is from Reuters, right? So look at the summary. Trump expected to meet China's Xi later this month. U.S. approve 11 billion arms sales package for Taiwan in December. China has called for the U.S. to stop selling Taiwan arms, right? And we look at the Taiwanese government, right? Let me find it, right? They disapproved the purchase as well, right? So you got that going on, right? Yesterday, right? I can't access this article, right? Because of Bloomberg is this schmuck. I'm not paying for this shit, right? It says China sends more warplanes toward Taiwan after unexplained lull, right? There was a lull in China because what's been happening is the Chinese have for decades, for years, right? They've been flying military jets near Taiwan daily, right? This is what they've been doing, okay? So if you look at this article, it says Taiwan has grown accustomed to near daily drumbeat of Chinese military planes flying close by, part of Beijing's campaign to pressure the island it claims as its own. But lately, Taiwan has been facing an unexpected puzzle. Where have the planes gone? For 12 of the last 13 days, no Chinese military flights were recorded near Taiwan. The sole exception was Sunday when 2 planes were seen approaching the island, according to daily data released by Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense. Listen, it's the year of the fire horse. G, I need you to reach deep down into your spirit, right? And just muster up and channel the spirit of the fire horse and go take what's yours. Okay. That's what I need you to do, my guy. That's what I need you to do, G. All right, let's see what ground news got going on. Let's see, China. Right, type Chinese news. Right. Boom. Here it is. Take a look. See if I can access it. Right. So thousands of Chinese boats massed at sea, raising questions. Thousands of Chinese fishing boats massed in a geometric formation in the East China Sea with December 25th event about 300 kilometers northeast of Taiwan and an early January cluster of around 1,000 vessels. Experts noted many boats were likely part of China's maritime militia, and Beijing is tapping its civilian fleet to prepare for crises linked to the PLA's 2027 capability building U.S. report and analysis flag. Right, so they've been talking about how China is on the cusp. They're going to be invading Taiwan by at least 2030. That's what they're analyzing. Right. Let's see what this one says. This is from 17 hours ago. Beijing preparing for conflict. Thousands of boats amassed in East China Sea. Thousands of Chinese boats have been seen massing in geometric formation. So again, this is all over the place. Okay. So you got that going on, right? What else? Let's see. All right, so that's it on that, right? So now let's go. I pull this one up. Yep, we went to this one, right? So they're sending warplanes, right? And they're also mad because what's going on? The U.S. is about to sell Taiwan a bunch of weapons. Now, I don't know when these weapons are supposed to get there, right? So it says Taiwan Parliament authorizes signing of stalled $9 billion U.S. arms deal. Okay, so it says Taiwan's parliament authorized the government on Friday to sign U.S. Agreements for 4 arms sales packages worth some $9 billion after officials warned that Taipei will go to the back of the line if it missed the deadline, sending the wrong message to Washington. The back and forth on Taiwan's defense spending has provoked concerns in the United States, as it is the most important international backer of arms supplier of the Chinese claimed island, despite a lack of formal diplomatic ties. This body upholds the principle of placing national security first and firmly defending territorial integrity. This is what Taiwan is saying. Parliament Speaker Han Kuo-yu said, reading the resolution, which passed unanimously. So they unanimously passed this resolution for them to purchase what? U.S. defenses. Now, Taiwan, I think you're hitching your wagon to the wrong cart, right? To the wrong horse. If you haven't been paying attention, right? America's doing a shitty job, right, with this war in Iran, right? Iran is fucking America and Israel up, destroying billions and trillions of dollars worth of U.S. military equipment. I don't know if you want to buy weapons from them, right? You should just accept the fact that Big Brother G is about to come take what's his, right? Y'all can keep pump faking as if y'all are big enough to stand toe to toe with mainland China. You're not, right? So he says he urged the government to submit a complete report on the weapons delivery schedule for Parliament to review after it signs the letter, right? So we don't know when this is going to happen. The weapons covered include TOW anti-tank missiles, M10 109 A47 self-propelled howitzers, Lockheed Martin made Javelin missiles, and the HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems worth around $9 billion in the total part of an $11 billion package Washington announced in December. President Lai Ching-te's government has tried to get Parliament to pass $40 billion in extra defense spending, but the opposition, which controls most seats, said that the proposals are unclear and cannot be expected to pass blank checks, right?
It's crazy. I'm just thinking about how all this stuff is ramping up. A year ago, my last job, remember I was telling you where I worked at, they made wiring essentially for NASA and military fucking grade equipment. Right before I left, and I didn't understand why somebody would do it, but the company was called Carlisle Interconnect. They sold their company for $3 billion cash. So it wasn't no assets, it was just a straight buyout by a company called Infinol. And I looked into Infinol, and they're like basically the same type of company, but they have more lead in it. So essentially, this company is just trying to expand. I think just had intel that all this stuff was going to come, and that they could make a crazy profit. Because it's like, why do you just randomly, buy a company for $3 billion, and it's a smaller company that's, in the field of what you're already dominating.
Yeah, man. Then you also have to factor these semiconductors, all the AI. Again, all this stuff is important, right? And again, AI is very important in what? In the beast's plan for his mark. And what do you need? You need semiconductors. You need these microchips. And who has in there a freaking monopoly on that shit? Taiwan. Right? They have a capacity to produce a crap ton of semiconductors, which is very important for AI, for the military, things of that nature. So they're set to receive. I'm not sure when it does. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when they're going to receive it, but again, Trump's supposed to be visiting Xi Jinping. When is Trump going to China? President Trump is scheduled to travel to China for a high-stakes summit with President Xi Jinping from March 31st to April fucking 2nd. Guess what time that is, guys? Passover is March 31st. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
April 2nd.
Listen, man. If this meeting actually happens, and I kind of hope it does, the fact that it's happening during Passover just goes to show how the Most High God is just moving the chess pieces on this chessboard, right? And how the Most High God is really moving in these last days. Okay, biblical prophecy is lining up and getting fulfilled each and every day. Right, we are getting closer and closer and closer to our deliverance. It is high time, right, that we get it together, family. All right. So yeah, man, what will China do? Right? Will China invade Taiwan this year? Will China get further involved in the Iran, Israeli, and American conflict? Right? We shall see. right? Now, there's a lot of things on the horizon. There's been a lot of talks of this seismic activity. There's seismic activity that's been happening in the Pacific that many seismologists and geologists are thinking that there's going to be a massive volcanic eruption in the Pacific. And that right there would be huge, because when volcanoes erupt, ash gets put into the environment, right, which can block out the sun, right? Especially if it's a super volcano. Okay, especially if it's a super volcano. So let me see if I can find this video real quick. I know I sent it to the priest. Let me see. Yeah, I find this joint.
This is crazy.
What happened?
No, I'm just looking into it, right? So, what I was just talking about. So, Infinol is the world's largest manufacturers of interconnect products, sensors, and antennas, serving industries of automotive, aerospace, data, communications, and industrial.
Yeah, that all that data.
I looked up who owns Infinol.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Netflix, right? So it's a public trade company, but its biggest primary investors institutions is Vanguard and BlackRock.
Oh, and BlackRock is in control of every goddamn thing. BlackRock is important in the implementation of what? The blockchain and digitizing gold, right? They got this war coin. They got all these coins, right? Listen, family, it's about to be a great financial reset, right? That's getting ready to happen. So the market beast is on the way, right? So real quick, let's play this real quick.
It's about that volcano, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to share this because my goal on here is to never strike fear. My goal on here is to bring communities together, start conversations, learn from one another, respect one another. But I feel like it's time that I share this story. Well, it's not a story. It's coming from the source and facts. But one of my very dear friends who I've kind of talked about on here before, who has shared some very important things that I've shared with all of you. He's a scientist. I shouldn't have said he, but yes, he's a scientist. He works with seismic activity. He works with a lot of different things that are in the science industry. I don't have to go in because I don't really want to tell too much about it. But he reached out to me about 2 weeks ago and was like, hey, my team and I have been tracking some seismic activity, and I think you should talk to your TikTok followers about this. So I didn't think I was going to do it because, I don't want to strike fear, and that's not my purpose. But now what I'm about to tell you is showing up on the news, like CNN, and also news reports out of London and Australia and all over the entire world, that in the coming months, there's predicted a mile-wide volcano that is in the Pacific Ocean that is expected to go off in the next coming months. Now, when he reached out to me, they have predicted it's going to be on June 5th. And this volcano that is potentially about to erupt will trigger over 10,000 earthquakes all over the entire globe in one day. Now, I don't know what else to do with this information, but he was very adamant that perhaps I should share this information with the people who follow me. Now, I don't know if you've seen the news reports. I saw the one on CNN, and the crazy thing is it was just a scrolling bar at the bottom, not even a main story. And I don't understand why 10,000 earthquakes happening in one day and a mile-wide volcano going off in the ocean is not a headline story. So let me know. All right. So
potential super volcano a mile wide. That's crazy. A potential super volcano erupting that scientists are predicting is going to trigger about 10,000 earthquakes all over the world. And again, this is in the Pacific, right? You have this thing called the Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire. It's a 40,000 kilometer, 24,900 mile horseshoe-shaped belt around the Pacific Ocean, containing roughly 75% of the Earth's active volcanoes and over 90% of its earthquakes. Okay, so let's look. All right, so boom. Here's the Ring of Fire, family. Oops. Oh. Right. So you got the west coast of the U.S. You got Asia. Just me off. Bro, look at this. Right? This could be massive. Right? If a super volcano that's a mile. Oh, I got those shit. My bad. Salakia. I'm on the wrong browser. Watch this, family. Right? This is the Ring of Fire. You got Japan, Asia, the Philippines, right now, Australia, all of South America, Central America, the West Coast of America. This is insane. If a 1 mile wide super volcano erupts, what could that trigger? Right? It can trigger tens of thousands of earthquakes. Right? It could trigger other volcanoes to erupt. Right? There was a volcano in East Africa that erupted that triggered other volcanoes in the area to erupt not too long ago. And if a super fucking volcano erupts this summer, what would happen if a super volcano erupted? A supervolcano eruption, such as Yellowstone, would cause catastrophic regional destruction and severe global climate disruption. Initial fast-moving pyroclastic flows would incinerate surrounding areas, while massive amounts of ash and sulfur would spread globally, creating a volcanic winter, causing widespread crop failures and halting global aviation for years. Are there any super volcanoes in the Pacific? Yes, there are massive supersized volcanoes in the Pacific Ocean. The most notable is Tamu Massif. Right, let's take a look at that. An extinct submarine shield volcano east of Japan that is one of the largest on the earth. While active supervolcanoes like Yellowstone are land-based, Pacific hosts large active underwater features, including the axial seamount of the Oregon coast. Key volcanoes and features. Says it's extinct, right? Meaning it's inactive, right? But Indian could trigger a volcano to be active. Let's take a look at this one real quick. When was this from? This is from 2013. Predicted volcano volcanic eruptions. Ooh. Says there are no next volcano as eruptions are unpredictable, but axial seamount off Oregon is forecast for mid to late 2026. Okay. And it's right off the coast of what? Off of Oregon. Yikes. So volcanoes with increased activity or forecast. Axial seamount, USA, and an underwater volcano off the Oregon coast predicted for mid to late 2026 due to uplift reaching pre-eruption levels. Kaleo, USA, currently paused by showing inflation and tremor, with potential for new fountaining in late or early April 2026. Mount Spur showing significant unrest, making an explosive eruption likely in the coming weeks or months as the Alaska Volcano Observatory. Right, so we got a shit ton of volcanoes that are likely to erupt relatively soon. Right? Let's go to news. Listen, family. This is insane. This could be bad, right? So when I saw this video, I sent it to the priest here, and he was like, "Bro, only thing I can think about is a basket of summer fruit." And I was like, "Think of what I'm thinking, priest." So what do we mean by that, right? In Amos chapter 8, right? Amos is showing a basket of summer fruit, right? And it's harvest, and harvest is the end of a season. And the Most High God says that the end of my people is not, right? And that the Lord's going to cause the sun to set at noonday. It's going to darken the sun, right? Other prophecies talk about the sun being darkened. Now, we went into this 8 months ago, right? And we were asking, well, is this end time prophecy? Will this happen in 2025? It could happen. It can happen any year, right? But as we look at what's going on and as we try to measure the time diligently within itself, right? And we're looking at all these other signs, right? Again, earthquakes in diverse places, where earthquakes are connected with seismic activity. If a freaking super volcano is set to erupt near America, that could be the catalyst to the sun being darkened.
Yeah.
Right? That could very well be the catalyst. So I highly suggest, brothers and sisters, if you have not watched this live, watch this joint, this Amos 8 and 9, right?
Great.
Watch this. Right, we went into
Right. Yeah, the sister's vision.
This is a sister, right? An Israelite sister. She was in the car with the hair wrap, right? And she essentially prophesying, right, about how the Most High God is going to cause the sun to set at noonday, right? And what the Father, she just told her to, of course, let our people know about, right? And the thing is, right, as I looked at the things that the sister said, they all line up with a bunch of biblical prophecy. We went into this in depth in this lesson. So with that in mind, right, brothers and sisters should, like I said, prepare, right? Prepare for all that could potentially happen, right? Civil unrest, right? You running out of power, right? Listen, if you don't got a battery bank, get you one, right? If you don't have a bug out bag, get you one, right? And you got to think about things that you might that are outside of the box in a sense, right? I'll give you an example. I've been of course, preparing. And one thing that I got, I realized, okay, I have a child now, I have an infant, a 6-month-old, and I can't have a shit ton of diapers in my bug out bag. So what did I do? I bought cloth diapers that can be reused, that you can wash, and you want to run, you can wash it, right? Great point, really, G1, G100. Further proof of a financial reset is the fact that the government keeps saying our banks are at risk of being hacked by Iran and China. Great point, right? So, and with that in mind, with the idea, knowing that the market of the beast is around the corner and that you will not be able to buy or sell unless you have the mark, you need to get these things that you need preparing now while cash is still king, right? Where we still are on this current financial system. You need to prepare these things. So, got cloth diapers to put in the bug out bag, right? If you have a wife, your wife is going to have her menstrual. Doesn't make sense to bring a bunch of pads and tampons, right? Yeah, you have some. But what else you should do? You can order cloth pads, right? I got those. Like you gotta think about all these things, right? Another thing I suggest, right? I just ordered this off TikTok shop the other day, right? These little space bag, like these little bags that you can put clothes in, and it comes with a portable little vacuum. It sucks the air out. So now you can save space in your bag, right? You can pack a whole bunch. You can pack blankets, clothes, things of that nature. Use the vacuum, suck the air out. Boom, put it in your bag, right? Less space, you can fit more things, right? So, family, you got to think about this stuff, right? Anything could pop off at any second. You do not know, right? We are in perilous times, right? We are closer than we've ever been, okay? And it's important that brothers and sisters are truly preparing themselves, most importantly, spiritually, right? So fasting, praying, right? Keeping the commandments, right? Stop playing around if that's what you're doing. So yeah, right. But with that, family, we are a little over 3 hours, right? Pray you brothers and sisters will edify. Make sure you guys like and share the video, right? Because this is important, right? And until next time, family, Shalawam and Matawathya.
Shalawam.